everything on the recording can be heard.
You did really good last time.
I do have additional copies. We only printed one side of the packet, so if you would like one, they're here.
I'm pretty sure I got
I have everything in
everything
here?
I need.
As I said, we all brought in.
Well, but it's only printed half-sided.
Yeah.
You only got page 13579.
I would like to start the meeting off though in a little positive note, just my opinion, which I know doesn't carry much weight, but I'm gonna voice it anyway. Going over the plan and looking through all of this, I was really pleasantly surprised how many things we actually have accomplished with this, and how proud I am that, like it's said about, Big Chief something needs to be done down there, and we need to do something with, workforce education and stuff like this. And, the things that we've done to this date, I'm really proud of the stuff that we have accomplished. And when you've been doing this, I know as long as all of us at this table, what this city's accomplished. And I know we hear the bad stuff, but we've really done a great job of adhering to that. And there was only like maybe one thing that I could really see that we really don't really need, but we're really on track with a lot of this stuff. I think it's just fine tuning, but having the community center, now having a place, and kudos to Brooke and her staff for the job they're doing down there. We can do now workforce education. We can, have a place for people to gather, a place for seniors to gather, and that was one of the other things. But I love that, the Pier 334 and the other stuff that's going on. I was pleasantly surprised, and because sometimes I even forget, I have a memory like a 2-year-old anyway. But the fact that we were, I think we lose track of the good stuff, because we're constantly trying to overcome the bad stuff. It's okay for us to pat ourselves on the back a little bit and be proud of the accomplishments. Yes, we got stuff to do and work to do, but off on a positive note, I'm pretty proud of the stuff that we have accomplished. That's my 2 cents.
Agree.
All right, we're going to kick it off. First item that you read into the record was EDC. So one of the things we did last time, we did a short work session. It was about an hour leading up to the meeting. So you got given a lot of information and got the chance to ask some questions. We're going to start with the EDC. After we kind of tie up EDC, we'll roll over to city. Charles is going to stay because there are some combined things there. But I wanted council to have a little more time, and we have as long as we need tonight, right? I booked an hour for this and an hour for city, but we can switch that around however we need to. We're here till you guys are comfortable. But I'm going to punt it to Charles and you all to have some time with the EDC. As I said in my email, the most important thing is council sets the direction for the city, and the EDC is part of that, right? Even in state law, the EDC still has a governing body, and you guys are that. So I want to make sure Charles has what he needs from you and the time he needs with you to get that direction and make sure we're going the right way. Charles is going to hang around while we do the city stuff too, because it also plays in when we get to the strategic plan. So in your packet was the entire meeting packet from the December 16th meeting, just so you had it. Your comp plan has everything you need in it. The packet that I printed for you and put in your box may only have odd pages. If it does, Janet printed additional. She can give you just the even pages, or she can give you a whole new packet. We didn't realize that until today, my bad. There's a lot of information, but you're also missing some stuff. So I will punt it, Mayor, to you and Charles. I'm here for support in any way I can be supported.
Charles, you have the floor.
Okay, well, when we convened last time over this workshop, it was basically to go over the strategic plan, the comp plan, and then the strategic plan update that was done in 2024. And then you guys asked me to give my thoughts on a lot of the elements that are in the 2024 strategic plan. And then we talked about getting back together for you all to give me some feedback based on what we had talked about. And I tried to break that down into just revisiting the strategic plan, getting some council direction and priorities going forward in the near term and then the long term. Kind of give me what your measures of success would look like. Another topic would be how do we deploy our capital and where should we focus the money that we have, as far as getting that money out and invested so that it can cultivate returns, in whatever way that looks like. How we want to structure the EDC committees, and then also just kind of day-to-day battle rhythm for accountability, reporting structure for me, operations of the office, those sorts of things. So I did a lot of talking last time. I had put in there just kind of a list of questions to maybe guide a conversation. And I'll kick it back to you guys to see where we want to go. Okay, on to the city time. No, I'm just kidding.
Organized list.
So I will, let me start with one thing. Like when you're going through the economic development, the strategic plan, and you're talking about a base, and I think you hit on a couple of those keynotes, that the retail leakage, destination-based retail, and things of that nature. I think those are two foundational things that I think we would want to stay with. And those numbers, I think are pretty clear that we're losing some of that. But at the same time, I love that you had identified something that probably had never been brought up before, in that the strengths of what we do are like the lawnmower races, like the and then when we were talking about some new space. So what retail do we have that actually backs those things up?
Yep.
What really helps with all that? And I don't know that we really have, other than Walmart, a real bait and tackle shop, or a place like that, or a boat place. I know we've never had a boat place. I know we have a boat rental, but we don't really have a place that sells boats or sells tackle. Yeah, absolutely, and things of that nature. And also maybe something that's a little bit more friendly to outsiders when they come here. Like I've had a bunch of people say, "Hey, Coach, what's the best guide out there?" I hate to say this, I don't know who the best fishing guide is. And if we had a list of stuff like that and things of that nature, that kind of backs some of that, that kind of makes us, a little bit more detail oriented as far as what we're supplying in that area.
So what I would say to that, just I don't mean to interrupt you, but in an economic development theory conversation, that what I call that is a secondary driver leading to economic development. So you start off by setting this vision of, we want to emphasize the lake. Well, what does that look like? Do we want to go out and figure out how to market ourselves as the youth bass fishing capital of Texas? Well, that leads you into driving the primary drivers, like
Sure.
the bait and tackle shop, like the boat rental place. Guides are good for local intel. You're not going to get any sales tax off of that, but it does drive people to the market.
Yeah.
And they're going to stay somewhere, and they're going to eat somewhere, and they're going to shop
Right.
somewhere. So I think, if you're talking about a strategic document, you're talking about secondary economic drivers guiding primary driver decisions.
Sure.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
So that's how I would phrase that in a strategic plan.
Right.
It goes along with the sports, when we were talking about the ball fields and everything. If you've never experienced youth sports, we traveled all over Texas, Oklahoma, Louisiana, Alabama, all those places to see. But the first thing that we look at is, okay, we're playing here. Where's the closest hotel? Where's the best restaurants? And of course, you all know my daughter, Lauren. Where's the nearest Chick-fil-A? So, those are the things that I think impact us. but we've got to have that driver there. And I like where you're going with that, Brian, I guess one of the things that I want to look at, or that I want to ask, because I haven't been here that long, is what do we want our city to be known as? Does that make sense? Do we want to be known as the fishing capital of Cedar Creek? Do we want to know, and y'all are looking at me like I should know that already, and I apologize.
No.
Okay, but, I mean, do we want to be known as the softball, the soccer place of of Cedar Creek Lake? I see that we are a hub here, but I don't see there's not enough here. So whenever I do look at the sports, what hotels, if we're gonna bring 1,000 people into this city for a weekend, where are they staying, where are they gonna eat? And those two are big drivers for us economically.
So then you have to make a decision strategically of where you want to start. Do you want to have the infrastructure in place and then bring them in, or do you want to allow the secondary driver to tell the story for the primary driver?
I mean,
And I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
If you got 2,500 kids coming in here to play softball in a weekend, they're not going to have anywhere to stay today.
No, not at all.
But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go out to every hotel flag I can find, and I'm gonna say, we got 2,500 people coming in here every weekend, or 40 weekends out of 52 a year, you need to build a hotel. And I'm gonna start telling the story for that. And so the primary drivers are always gonna lag the secondary drivers if you take that tact. If you take the other tact and you say, let's go money whip hotels into coming here. We might be able to do that. I don't know that we can do that or not, but let's say you could. Well, now you're taking a gamble that they're going to have a reason to come. So I say, like in my business with live music, I say, I don't know if my parking lot's big enough or not, but I know if I've got somebody on stage that people want to go see, they'll find a place to park.
I guess the question for me would be, I've always heard build it, they'll come. But my question is, do we have to have them coming before we build?
Correct.
That's the real question for me, right? Because in this also, one of the big things was the one area that we really lack in being able to supply is the youth.
Yep,
We
sure.
don't really have that much for, the teenagers and groups like that, yeah, and young adults. So are we, how do we capture that? Because I've seen the demographics.
Yeah.
Most of the people here are between, this age, and they're,
Well, I want to change that
Retired
story.
and things
If
of
you're
this.
really going to
Yes.
impact sales tax revenues, you got to impact that story. Or
Right.
else you're just going to live with the sales tax you generate because people need to go shopping.
Right.
Or they're already coming here because they have a lake house or
Sure.
something. If you want to change the narrative, you're going to have to, I think, have some focus and some strategy behind a secondary driver. Whether that's taking what you've already got,
Okay.
like lawnmower races, and instead of having a couple hundred people, let's have a couple thousand people show up at the lawnmower races. And you do that with marketing and with making it
Sure.
so cool they can't resist, or they can't take their eyes off of it like a train wreck, or
Yeah.
something like that. Or you build something, and this is why I was an advocate, or I am an advocate for youth sports, because there's already a market and not enough places to play.
Yes.
And it doesn't matter if you're going after the top tier AAA youth teams with all the money in the world in their pocket, or you're going after the kind of the scrub teams that just need a place to play. Their parents still want them to play, and they're going to go travel regionally at least to play.
But I remember too, when I first got on all these boards and commissions, and
Yeah.
I remember the first one I sat on was with Jennifer on the planning and zoning. I was always taught, and Miss Weller used to tell me this all too, we're the hub of the Lakeplex, okay? So with that, we want to be the hub of youth sports stuff. And what I will say is, parents are going to spend money on what? Their kids.
Absolutely.
That's a driver.
Yeah.
Okay? And so if somehow we can, people love to come to the lake anyway. Because the beauty of it is, there's the park down there, in between games, if they want to go down there in the park and they can all go swimming and they can hang out and do stuff like that. I mean, there's other things. But that group of people, I know that we have a certain demographic and we never want to lose
Yep.
that that's what this really was. This was a retirement community. But if you want to be able to serve those people better too, I think we need to have to fill the void.
Sure.
And that was one of the things that was stated in here, was one of the biggest demographic voids that we have here.
I'll tell you, your median age is dropping. It's
Yes, it
down
is.
Yeah.
to 49, since, which is a year and a half than what they said, but your median age is dropping. So being that retirement community is changing,
Yes, it is.
and I just looked again, we've kind of been watching that, right? But your median age is dropping, and 49-year-olds have children.
Yep.
And if it's,
Well-
you know, with more and more people that are moving in here, you know what I'm saying, so it's not necessarily just for retirement anymore.
Yeah.
Well, it's close enough to the Metroplex now that people will travel. I will never forget seeing Terrell. Terrell was Denton was so far out of the Metroplex. Now it's part of the Metroplex. Terrell, Sunnyvale, all those are part of the Metroplex, and they're moving here and driving
moving south.
an hour to town to
South
do
of
the
Fort
work.
Worth, south of Fort Worth, and then Kaufman being one of the
Yes.
fastest growing, like it is coming south.
And we're right there. We're right here.
Again, just to bring it back, if you're looking at this from a strategy perspective, there's a couple strategies. Again, I can go take the money that we have and I can go beat on every hotel door. I'm just using the hotel as a widget, okay? I can go beat on every door and tell them I'll throw money at you, I'll buy the land, I'll build the place, whatever we tell them we're gonna do. Or you can take that same capital and you can improve your community as a secondary driver, and now I'm knocking on that door going,
This is what we
you
have.
need to be here because you're missing out.
Right.
And I don't even need to incentivize them at all. I'm incentivizing them by bringing bodies.
And I think that's
That
the
would
way,
be
that's,
my
that is
preference.
correct.
I do
yes.
too. I mean,
Yes.
Because I feel like we've already, I mean, I know it's not huge, but we do have another hotel coming. And I think that, I really feel, and I've said this over the last couple of years, that once that construction really gets underway and people are from Dallas are like, ooh, look at what's being built down at Cedar Creek Lake. It
Yep.
is going to drive people to invest more in this area. So I totally agree. I would rather start with that secondary development of the things that we want to see as opposed to going after the other hotels, because those are gonna come.
Well, in my conversations with Stephen, he's got the I don't know, permission, I don't know what you call it. He's got the ability to build 17 other flags under that brand. Because that's one, that's their signature hotel, but they've got all kinds of hotel brands, and he's willing to invest, but there's just no.
There's no
But it's
need
hard to
yet.
bring a business here that you can't support, that the business can't self-sustain until you build the secondary thing. So you have to build your secondary driver first and then and then the other ones, like you said, they'll come.
The fastest and quickest way, I think, is youth sports. I mean, it's
I
just-
agree.
Yeah, I just believe that.
Well,
So-
if we go to like page 111,
Oh, do I have that one printed?
on chapter 6 of the Economic Development Strategic Plan,
Yeah.
It's comprehensive now.
yeah. Anyway, at the top it goes, the retail opportunity for Gun Barrel City as the hub of the Lakeplex.
A full one?
Yes,
Yeah.
please.
The comp plan. Did you print
The
it?
comp plan, is that?
It's in there.
It's in here,
Chapter 6 is in there.
yeah. That's-
Yeah, there you
that's
go.
right there.
It's page 10 of 41.
Yeah, that's it. I got you.
Anyway, it says the retail opportunity for Gun Barrel as the hub of the Lakeplex becomes more telling when the trade area is expanded to 15 miles. In this case, the leakage indicates tremendous growth opportunity, which is what you touched on, so that made me feel like you're in tune with what we're talking about. But then it goes right there, food services and drinking places present one of the major opportunities, over 20 million in unmet demand. But when we goes right to, and that's why I bring this up, and I started with this, sporting goods is another logical opportunity given the recreation activity and potential of Cedar Creek Reservoir. And I think we forget about this, but I know a bunch of my neighbors in nearby Purtis Creek State Park, because that's a great fishing area too. But there's two things right there. And then later on, it talked about at first glance, grocery appears to be another opportunity. You spoke about that also. So, but I think that's why I opened with that, just because it was like one of the top things on that particular page that spoke of what we're lacking, where we need to be, opportunities for us. That's the only reason I brought that up.
Yeah, yeah. So just where I take that information, if that's the direction we want to go, you know.
Well, I'm just throwing it out there because I need your opinion on how you think that idea floats. You know, you have the experience.
Well, I'm hearing some consensus, it sounds like.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, what I'm saying is, if that's the way we want to go, that drives my day-to-day activities. Where I can now, in my quarterly reports that I'm given, I can update progress on where we're at, as much as I can say publicly with that. You know, what I can see happening is I've already engaged, just through an old contact, just a company to come look at our 60 acres, the art of the possible.
Yes.
What does this look like? And just see where it goes from there.
Sure.
Again, along the way, there's gonna be opportunities. This paragraph you just pointed out, I learned very quickly, I don't talk about Gun Barrel City in a vacuum. I talk about the Lakeplex. You guys hear me use the word sexy. The demographics of Gun Barrel aren't sexy to anybody I go talk to as a national brand. But the Lakeplex is. And one of those, top tier, high hanging fruit, crown jewel kind of brands that I talked to right before Christmas, they're getting ready to announce a location in Kaufman and a location in Athens. And so as I'm talking to that broker who's got the ear of corporate, I'm saying, you are missing a big non-overlapping hole right here. So if you take Kaufman's trade area, it's getting big with Crandall.
Sure.
And Kaufman's getting big. Athens is what Athens is. Okay? It's not massively growing, but it's still sexy to them. They want to do it. Well, if those make sense, well, we make sense. Like, why skip us? Because our people aren't going to necessarily go out of their way to drive to either one of these places. But if you put one here, it will do better than either.
Yeah, but the people in Malakoff and Tool and all those places.
That's the Lakeplex.
That's the Lakeplex.
And I'm not
That's
using their
exactly right.
names either.
Yeah.
I'm just talking
No,
about the lake.
absolutely.
We have all of what I call the retail gravity for the lake. All of the gravity is Gun Barrel City.
Right.
If you're around the lake, you drive here to get whatever you need or want. And so those conversations will still happen, and I'm not going to miss out on those just because I'm trying to build a softball field, right? I mean, and you don't have to. You can walk and chew gum at the same time. Going back to your first point about retail leakage should be a driver of retail decisions for primary. And then you talk about the secondary drivers. Again, lowest hanging fruit, I think the easiest one to capture is ball fields, because they're fairly easy to build. It takes money, and just so y'all know, we're gonna have to write some checks. But it's easy to capture. I mean, you can walk on every street corner and find somebody to put together a youth tournament for any sport you want. You build those fields where they can be used for multiple sports, and just see where the organic focus of that field is. Right?
And what I learned too is that Mark, being the hub of the Lakeplex, the hub of Gun Barrel, and I don't think we've all done as good a job of what we have recently, though, in the last 6 months to a year, is that park. I know, especially you that was a big. Your mom was a driver of that, and the Parks Board that's a real crown jewel, and we need to really expound and expand that, and everyone's knowledge of everything that's really out there, right? And so we do have that space, along with the 60 acres you were talking about, and the backside of that. But since we've, the staff's done a great job, and we do have some softball teams that kind of go. So we know that we can hold those things. Now, how do we expand that, and how do we make that?
Well, again, that's what the term I use, secondary economic driver. I think that's a key.
I didn't mean to interrupt you, Jim.
You're okay. I would like to know, so for a facility like that, how many jobs could we expect? Like, how many employees does a facility like that generally? I mean, I would assume groundskeepers. Now, would that be our park? That would only be, okay.
The fields themselves, I would argue, don't generate a lot of jobs. What
Right.
generates jobs are the things that get built to support the fields,
Yes.
right? The fields, you might get a couple of jobs out of.
Okay.
It's a big investment, but it draws people to our town, and the hotels and the restaurants that come with those things. That's what generates your jobs. A
And I-
Clover of
yeah.
four fields. Charles and I spend a lot of time, y'all know this is my background, I love this stuff. Charles and I spend a lot of time talking about this. A Clover of four fields back there on that 60 acres with lights and fields and parking and those things. It's the other stuff that comes with that. Hosting a weekend tournament with 100 teams, right? That's gonna bring all those other things that are that are job drivers.
And then, you know, I've seen it done a couple of different ways as I was researching this in my previous life. The way we decided to go about it was a public-private partnership. I don't know that that's the best way to do it or the way that we want to do it, but I had a deal built in there where they leased the fields from us for weekend play. And the deal was such that if they didn't perform, that we could easily remove them and put another operator in. And so whatever jobs they have were 1099, they were their own cost structure and that sort of thing. But when you're talking about Cloverfield's 1,500 people a weekend,
Yeah.
it's not outside the realm of possibility. I've already, and I don't want to really put it on the record, but I've got a kind of a phasing model in my head that I just kind of made up in my in my head. There's plenty of experts. Angie, I would consider an expert in this area to guide us in those decisions. But from a strategic standpoint, it's going to cost money. I mean, you're going to have to write a check, knowing that the returns from that, you'll see some immediate returns when you open it up because they're going to go to Whataburger for lunch. But the real exponential returns come down the road when you've got a proven up business model there.
And the person that you have coming down to look at the 60 acres, because I've heard that, you know, we've been dumping back there for years, or this, that, and the other. Is that what you're talking about, where they're going to tell us what it's going to take to get it to, I mean,
Yeah.
'cause I have no idea what's back there, you know.
Well, they'll need to do a boundary survey, they'll need to do a topo survey, then they'll put together some sort of bid set plan, and then they'll do construction management. Or at least that's one way to do it.
And
I've
if-
never
if-
built a baseball field, so I don't
And
know.
if not, because the 60 acres is a lot, that we may have to do it in sections.
Well, again, I've got a phasing plan.
Yeah, so
kind of
phasing, yeah.
in mind. I think, again, you want to prove that business model up, but with the ultimate goal being, I mean, Clover Fields, 15 acres, is that right?
Right.
So you can put 16 ball fields out there with the parking and all the facilities. You know, you start talking turf and lights, now you're talking about 10,000 people a week coming.
You also can build a few and sell off some of that other land for hotels and to build around it, right? A lot of them have
Could,
seen
sure.
success building fields
Sure.
and building hotels on the same property, right? Like that's where you start to see some of that return and the EDC being able to then
with
partner
them.
with some of these hotels with the property and the different things. So it all kind of comes together. You start small and you wouldn't build 16 fields to start with, you might build 4.
Right.
And that's how many teams is that, right, on a weekend? And
Yep.
Charles and I argued for a while in my office about grass versus turf, right? I love turf, play turf every day, all year round, never a problem. But you also sometimes build those, and in 10 years, they have done what they're supposed to do, and that property is then worth more as something.
Higher best.
Yes.
Yeah,
And,
something
and
else.
that's his argument, Angie, wait a minute, like, time out, right? Those are the conversations he and I have in my
Yeah.
office back and forth about how do you make this work, and what do you do with it, and
Yeah.
it
I'm saying
really
you might get
does
the-
begin
yeah.
to drive people to get
Yeah.
here.
So one of the parks that I helped build back in the 80s and 90s was Harold Patterson in Arlington.
Okay.
It's 135 acres. It started off as, they fenced it off, put 4 backstops
Yep.
in, but they play, YMCA plays there.
Yeah.
The Arlington Optimist plays there, football, soccer, baseball. They play, you see what I'm saying? So those are multi-purpose fields. And then they have the Clover for the softball tournaments and stuff like that, mostly slow pitch, like what we already have. And then they have, I don't know how many soccer fields are out there. That was phase 4.
Yeah.
And you
Soccer's a
don't.
completely different business
You
outside of
don't-
baseball.
You don't drive down by Super Walmart, which was the first hypermart. You don't drive over there because Harold Patterson's right behind, between the Walmart.
Yeah.
And then you have every soccer field, baseball field, and utility field being played at. You're not talking tens of thousands. Now you're talking close to 100,000 people there on a Saturday.
Yeah.
And so you just look at those different things, start small, work our way up, or incorporate with those other, and the city of Arlington was too proud to ever do that. So,
With 4
it's-
adult fields in a clover, adult fences, we judged in my previous city, our economic driver as up to 100,000 people a year. And that was only adult. That was only slow pitch softball, adult slow pitch softball, co-ed, men's, women's tournaments. When you start adding youth to that, the youth baseball side, and then kickball and all the things that ended up happening at that 8-field complex, it was double that. So,
Yep.
you know, it does drive people, and I think that's one of the things we need to be better at doing,
Yep.
is bringing people here, because now they're spending the money, and that's where the drive is.
But I
And it
also,
benefits everybody.
but I also want to make sure as we make this plan that we're, yes, we want to bring people to our community, and I understand that, but I want to make sure that we use, whatever profit we make from that project to continue to improve our park for our residences. Like, I want paved sidewalks, I want to see more improvement in the park that's not just related to,
Absolutely.
Outsiders.
more for our residents. Yes, the people that actually live here and utilize the park.
That's almost the secondary driver to the secondary driver, is the funds that it funnels into your budget to be able to do additional projects. Our Parks Board has really flipped how they do, right? They are looking at the strategic, just like you guys are looking at the comp plan. At their next meeting, they're looking at the comp plan. They're looking at the park plan. They're looking at the dreams of what that all might look like one day. They're already applying for grants. On your next meeting, you'll see a trail grant. So they're already applying for those things to
Yep.
start building up that side. But bringing in those visitors, at the end of the day, benefits your residents. There's more money for roads, there's more money for services, there's more money for all of those things in how they spend their money in
Yeah.
WRL City.
And you fill up another bucket too. You fill up, eventually you start filling the hotel motel bucket.
Yeah.
Now, it's limited in how you can use those funds, but,
You do.
now you're talking about bigger and more attractive acts for your July fest.
Absolutely.
Can I ask a question? So this table right here, it's table 13, retail market profile by industry?
Uh-huh.
Okay. So, in my rudimentary mind, so everything in red is stuff where that's stuff we're missing, correct?
That's right.
So motor vehicle and parts dealers, I thought how many?
So keep in mind, Brian, too, this was 2018.
Yeah.
2017 or 2018. We have some more updated reports from Retail Coach.
That's what I'm
on
asking.
leakage.
That's why I'm bringing this
There
up.
are some more updated leakage reports
Okay.
from,
Yeah, I don't have it memorized.
Yeah.
Maybe that gap's closed, but you are reading it right, that there
Yeah.
are, of the universe of people around a 15-mile radius, they are spending $150 million a year
Yeah.
on motor vehicle and parts dealers.
Right.
And you're doing 65 of that.
yeah. So there is a more updated leakage report that Retail Coach provided us in
Okay.
their market analysis.
That's what I wanted to know, because I want to make sure that we're not looking at numbers that,
Yeah.
but again, one of the positives, again, is general merchandise stores, which falls in line with what Lowe's has supplied, what Walmart has supplied, things of that nature. But then again, it said down there, food services and drinking establishments. Well, that goes back to what we were talking about on that first page when I brought up two of the things that that they said were unmet met demands, food services and drinking place. So I just wanted to, I would just want to make sure that we were, if we're, the number may not be correct, but if the driver is still there, I want to know that if that still exists, then that's something we need to look at.
Absolutely.
One of the questions I wanted to ask, I'm sure you've familiarized yourself at this point with our zoning maps, and wanted to ask what your opinion was as far as, like, are we utilizing our, I don't know how to ask this question. Yeah, can't figure out how to phrase it. Could we utilize our zoning map better to draw people in?
I don't think so. I love the idea that all of Main Street, all the way to 175, shows up in a future land use plan as retail commercial. I think that is the main thing people are going to hone in on, that's undeveloped opportunity out there. As long as the demand is there, that we're willing to preserve that land for the highest and best use.
Sure.
So you're going to dig into my brain a little bit here. You're asking somebody who's judged based on sales tax revenue in a town with zero ad valorem. I think there should be a cash register on top of every blade of grass in Gun Barrel City. I know that's not feasible and that's not right, but that's where my mindset is.
Sure.
Like, we are the primary revenue driver in town.
Sure.
And every square foot that doesn't have a retail cash register on it costs money.
Sure.
Yeah.
So, now, to your original question about zoning maps, I don't think they're all that important, other than at first look. So the first look is a lot of red on that map. People like to see that. We're open for business as far as retail development. But I never concern myself a whole lot with zoning maps because you got PDs. You just do PD.
Sure.
Y'all can, the city can do whatever makes sense through a process. Or you can exclude what you don't want through that same process,
It's true.
which is sometimes is important.
Yeah, it's 100%.
So, but that is a good question. I wish more councils asked their EDC directors that question.
You guys did invest a lot of time and effort when they put the comp plan together at really thinking about that. Now, we all know we have some zoning issues to clean up.
Sure.
We have the GLO grant that's gonna help us with drainage and rewriting and combining but every city is now going through that because every city created 100 zoning districts and now they're trying to, wait a minute, we should have not done that. We should have tightened them back up. But you do have a lot of retail market areas and that's, Charles and I have talked a lot about that.
Yeah.
That's how critical that is in Gun Barrel, so. And we really are the retail hub around the entire lake, right? So.
So, I mean, you start getting outside of I mean, those two priorities, using retail leakage to drive behavior, as far as what we're going after on the primary retail or primary economic driver, and exploring secondary drivers, that takes a lot of time.
Sure.
Okay, so, you start adding to that list, all of a sudden you're diluting the objectives over the next 18 months.
Sure.
So my advocacy is, like, that's enough. That's enough
Yeah.
for now. Now, whatever you want to talk about as far as the longer term plan, obviously I'm looking at the 2024 plan. And until y'all tell me different, I am not focused on increasing light industrial for the reason I just said.
Right.
I'm not saying it's not valuable.
No.
I'm not saying we don't need the jobs. I'm saying if you put them in Gun Barrel proper, you're costing yourself money.
I understand.
I want those companies, I want those jobs, I'd love to see them in the county. I'd love to see them in the labor
Yes.
shed,
Yes.
as we talk about. But not necessarily in a space I can put in a cash register.
That makes a lot of sense.
Right.
The other things on your 3-year plan, retail strategies, I'm not exactly sure what y'all were getting at there, but increased social media and website. that's happened.
That's done.
So, you know, you can put a
Again, that
checkbox
goes
in
back to
that.
what I was talking about at the beginning.
I'm not that familiar with your broadband structure. It hasn't come up in any of the conversations that I had, like when y'all gonna get your a handle on your broadband.
So I'll tell you, when we initially did that with the EDC, there were broadband gaps in
Okay.
Gun Barrel.
Yeah.
That was right when I first started. Since then, the federal government has done a number of broadband grants. So you now have Brightspeed that's gone
Okay.
overhead with fiber. That was not, there was no fiber in Gun
Yeah.
Barrel at that point. North Texas Fiber had kind of come out and had some beginning conversations. Since then, both the governor's office and the federal government has done those broadband grants. So Brightspeed's gone overhead with fiber, NextLink's here going underground with fiber. We have another one that has started conversations with us about underground commercial fiber, being able to bring even faster speed
Yeah.
to commercial businesses. So that one has a bit, it was a concern of both council and the EDC, I think, but that one has kind of worked its way through the process just by the sheer grants that were made available to all these companies to come in and do that.
So we can put that in the mayor's box of things that we've addressed and you can.
Absolutely. And one of the other things too, like on this page where it says developing the economic vision and SWOT analysis.
Yep.
And it's, and it says, and again, I know this is in the past, but it talks about what is the first word that comes to mind when you think of Gun Barrel City today? Lake, economic development hub, small town friendly, restaurants, quality of life, slow pace. What would you like that word to be in 20 years, okay? So this is just some of the stuff that I threw out there. Again, you want to maintain that small town feel, but then we're talking about the more youth activities for the families when they come. There's more stuff for the youth to do. Workforce housing, right? But one of the big things, because you just touched on it when you're talking about broadband, but infrastructure, I know in the Mayor's Coalition, we've had several discussions, and I know Mayor Teague and I have discussed this also, but gas.
That's
Getting
what I was
gas
about to
here.
bring
That's gonna be a
Down Main
huge,
Street.
huge driver for some of the restaurants and people and businesses that we've spoken about. I know it's gonna be close because, they're gonna run it where the new elementary school is going in. And it's gonna be run to that school. Now, I don't know how that process takes place or how that negotiation goes, or what those conversations look like with Atmos at that point in time. But if they're running it all the way to there, we're not that far. I just don't know how that looks and how that takes place, or the contacts that have to be made. But I know that it is going to be run to that school, and that's a pretty big deal for Atmos, because that's money into perpetuity for them.
Sure.
So they're going to run it there. We're not that far off. I don't know. I think that's a huge driver for us too, as far as infrastructure. That's just an opinion.
Well, I think that's one of those things that we ought to throw on a 3-year plan. And as I'm going about my day-to-day, kind of have that in my mind of opportunities to sort of wedge my way into conversations about getting gas, at least down Main Street.
Absolutely.
So,
And they are pretty close to that school now. They're not
Yeah.
doing a very long run. It stops right along 198, so it's a pretty short run to the school. We've had some preliminary conversations with Atmos. They're willing to chat about it. There's a cost with that infrastructure,
Sure.
right? Our businesses now use propane. Not many have asked for, hey, we don't want propane, we'd rather have this. It's for a restaurant, it's a bit of an exchange one way or the other. We allow propane tanks, they're happy to use propane. So we could definitely meet with Atmos and have a conversation.
I don't know if that
baseball
drives-
fields out there might be a good jumping off point.
I mean, I know
Yeah.
I know the existing people are using that, but some of the
Yeah, I got you.
bigger guys, are they gonna be more apt to want gas than
Yeah,
propane?
you want it in a restaurant,
I
sure,
have
but
been told in the past that is the reason that steakhouses
That's the only
have
reason I
not
brought it
wanted
up,
to
yeah.
come out here, is because we don't have a natural gas line down Main Street. So
Cook
that
on-
could be huge.
cook on charcoal like we do. No, I'm just
fan.
kidding about that.
I'm a fan.
Yeah. No, I think that's good to know.
And then my other priority to talk about, like I brought up last time, is grocery.
Yes.
Yes. And that was one of those that was brought up all through this.
I did get an answer to your question.
Did you really?
It was a margin issue, not a demand issue.
Okay, margin, explain that to me.
Well, the cost of groceries went up. They weren't passing that on to the customer, and all of a sudden it just became untenable to be delivering out here.
Yeah,
It wasn't a matter of not enough people here are ordering.
yeah.
No, it
So there
wasn't.
was a significant number of people,
Nobody used the word significant, but it
Okay.
was enough.
it was enough.
So-
And that was like if you would charge a small delivery fee to every single one of them, then, you know what I'm saying, that would have made it worth it or something.
Yeah.
We would have paid it.
Yeah,
mean,
everybody
I-
paid $5.
I paid for the yearly membership, it was like $65,
Yeah.
and when they ended it at 3 months, I called them and I was like, hey, I want my money back since you're not gonna stay out here,
Yeah.
so.
In my conversations, that ball is inching down the field. It's,
Just a matter of time.
we need a big play.
Sure,
Use your vernacular. We need a chunk.
sure.
But right now, it's just they're moving closer. Is all I get out of it.
Yeah.
Well, I think too, when you look at, on one of your questions, it says, what 3 guiding principles should staff operate under? I mean, obviously, we're the hub of the Lakeplex. We want to continue to build on that. But we have such a great population change on the weekends. I want to make sure that we're capitalizing on that. But then,
What's the difference?
Angie, you have those numbers.
No. What's the difference in the numbers? What's the difference in being the hub of the lake and capitalizing on the fact that our population changes on the weekend? Isn't that the same thing?
Yeah, it's probably in that, yeah.
Okay.
I'll agree with that.
Yeah.
But also make sure we are selling the lifestyles. And the other thing that I think we don't do a good enough job, because it is a Maybank school district, but our kids go to Maybank schools. The Maybank School District is an outstanding school district. And Lakeview Elementary, they do an incredible job over there. I know I've volunteered over there a bunch and I've been a part of that. And the principal over there, Miss McAllister, does an incredible job over there. But I think you gotta sell that too when you're talking about people moving, to an area and, well, what will this provide for my employees and things like that. I mean, that's what you wanna sell. I mean, we have a great school district. The lake is a no-brainer. I mean, who doesn't wanna, that's why I moved here. I wanted to be by water. But, it's just not the lifestyle, it's the schools, it's all of that, right? And if it is changing, as the numbers say, and trending in a younger demographic, then we have to make sure that in our plan that we're capturing that.
Are we okay with it trending younger?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Okay, I don't think we can change it. Stop them from it. Yeah.
I like it. I like that.
Subcommittees, you want to talk about subcommittees a little bit?
Yep.
Well, just, and again, I'm just pretend I dropped in on a parachute, and I have no idea what the discussions were around why even though I do know more than I'm letting on, why the committees were put together the way they are. On the subcommittee side, like I don't totally understand or need the committees as they're comprised. What I was proposing was an incentive review committee, like to put some eyes
Yes.
on, vet, ask questions that I might not ask that are important
Sure.
to other people. A banking and finance committee, make sure that the capital that we are holding in reserve is deployed in the best way that we can
Sure.
for the highest returns we can get. It is not right now, and I can tell you that.
Right.
And just from a, no, I don't want to say, political cover standpoint, I don't want to make those decisions unilaterally.
Right.
And then thirdly, just put some people in a room and talk about destination creation.
Yep.
Where do we want to focus our effort and maybe spend some money to think about where we're at on these secondary drivers where are we stuck on moving forward with it? What can we do to create environments? Like I don't want, how do I want to say this? I don't want a festival and event committee. I don't want to put on a festival necessarily as an EDC. What I want to do is create an environment where everybody in the world thinks about Gun Barrel as a place they want to do their festival.
Festival, that's correct.
And then I'll set a table up there and hand out plastic
That's
goodies
correct.
if you want me to. But I don't want to, I mean, it's just, A, I don't think it's the best use of
You don't want to be
my
an event
time.
planner.
And B, it does take a lot of time and effort without a whole lot of return. However, we want to be a place that people want to do destinations. So are we creating the environment that makes people think of Gun Barrel as a place they want to plant their flag and do their event?
Yep.
Like I think I just use a widget example, and I'm not trying to, I don't know, smack a wound or anything, but like pink fishing, I think it's great. I think it's a great event. I don't know how well it did this year, but either way, they want to do it here. I'm okay with that. I don't necessarily want to spend a bunch of money to advertise for them. They need to
Right.
go advertise for them. I'll be the place. And obviously, we had some quality in Gun Barrel that made you want to put that event here. Well, let's do 100 of those events a year, not one.
Sure.
You know, and how can we sourcing those events is one thing. Loving on people that want to do events is something. Hand-holding through the process of putting on an event, or communicating with the right people for the logistical support that they need to do the event. We can be that liaison to the event. I just don't want to be the event planner.
So that's what we need to do. We need to come up with some type of a plan or something we can give the event planners, touting what we're able to do
So
and what
that
we're
would-
able to provide.
Yeah, that would be how I would task a destination creation committee.
Right.
I had an events and festivals committee. I'm not sure how effective that was over the last year. I'm not sure it was or wasn't. I don't know.
I think a lot of their focus turned to creating events instead of finding
Okay,
people that
there you
did
go.
it.
Yeah,
Yes.
so I wasn't off base.
The
I
goal was to find people
Yeah.
who do events and bring them
Yes.
here,
Gotcha.
not us create 50 events.
Gotcha.
And that might have.
And
been
again,
impossible.
in this setup, the last thing I want to do is look back in the rearview mirror, step on toes, and Monday morning quarterback. I'm just telling you what I think I need to go forward.
Sure.
That's all.
Appreciate that.
So incentive review, banking and finance, I can get with my board and figure out who's going to go on these committees. Banking and finance, and then destination creation.
Instead of the committees you have currently, correct?
Correct. And that's just a matter of blessing, you know, having your own blessing.
And I'll just throw this, I don't know if this helps or it doesn't. I know it has helped, and it was one of my lame brain ideas, but it's actually kind of worked out, is the coalition that I did with the mayors. Is there any type of coalition with EDCs?
There is, they meet once a year.
Okay.
There's an East Texas EDC. There is one out of Dallas. I forget what they call themselves because I've been out of it so long. But the Dallas Chamber is probably the best, most active source of EDC
Okay.
gathering.
Okay.
But Brian, stay a team sport.
I
bro.
was to say, I'm not sharing secrets. I'm not sharing secrets.
Now,
I get it.
I would love.
So
But,
competitive.
yeah, but shared information,
I
I
would
mean, is
love to have
also,
a working relationship with Randy over there. But again, I mean, if it comes down to Chick-fil-A picking Maybank or Gun Barrel, I'm going to the freaking mat, man.
oh, sure,
You know? I don't want him to win that.
absolutely.
So,
In any developer, right? If we had somebody come in and Janet comes in and says, hey, I want to build retail space, can you help me fill it?
Yeah.
Man, we're fighting for that.
Yeah.
Because that's something we don't have much of.
Right.
We don't have a lot of retail space.
Yeah.
That's vacant, that is usable for a retail purpose, so.
but if there were a big.
But also have a relationship, this is what I will say to
No
that.
doubt.
Have a relationship, because if it doesn't work there, are we the next opportunity?
Yeah.
We don't want to miss out on that because we don't have that
That's right.
relationship. That's all I'm going to say
That's
about
right,
that.
and I play nice in the sandbox. I mean, think about where I came from. We had 5 EDC directors that had an office within 2 miles of mine.
Sure.
They all had a little bit different focuses, and all those focuses were synergistic. For instance, the big town there, they worked totally on a technology park, and they were only after manufacturing jobs. I wanted manufacturing jobs, but I didn't have the infrastructure for it like they did. But those jobs helped me. Those people lived and spent money in the town I was in. And so I was rooting for them. And I definitely wanted those businesses in the labor shed. And then the same thing with our next door neighbor here. I don't know that I would go to the mat for a big manufacturing company to
No.
locate and take up 15 acres in Gun Barrel City.
I
want
never
the
thought
jobs.
about it. I'm glad you explained it that way. I
Yeah.
had never thought about it like
Yeah.
that, but that makes a whole lot of sense
Yeah.
for us.
Yeah. So,
I like that. Anything else?
Related to that one, 4A?
what's that?
I said related to that one,
Yeah.
4A specifically.
I'm good. This is great. I appreciate it.
We just wanted to give us some extra time.
Yep.
You got the blessing you needed for your committees?
Yes.
We are gonna bring forth, I'll tell you, and this plays into the EDC and Charles as well. Vicki and I, we've been talking more about TextPool, TextStar, those investment accounts. That will be coming back to you probably in a work session before our meeting at the next meeting. We've had some preliminary meetings with them. Just, are there better ways to invest both the money the city has and the money the EDC has in higher yielding accounts, right? We have some, but there are smarter ways to invest that. And so Charles and I, the EDC luckily already has TechStar, and they have invested a big chunk in that, but there is additional money sitting there not making the money it should make. There is also that same on the side, so
Yeah.
on the city side. So that is something that will be coming to you sooner rather than later, probably at our regular January meeting in a work session.
I guess to wrap this part up, do we want to follow up with the board, like a joint session? And what would be the agenda for that session?
I'm always
for a collaboration. I think it's,
I am. And I mean, I would almost, I would like to hear what the EDC board
has to say.
needs and
Yeah.
wants from us.
Yes.
Like how can we better support that board and not make them feel like, you know, unfortunately I have heard members say that they don't feel like they're utilized very well. How could we utilize them better? So,
I've heard the same sentiment, and I think that would be
Yes.
an encouragement.
and then just one more question. How, just because, again, I don't know a whole lot about sports complexes, but how would this plan promote economic resilience during downturns? So, you know, let's say we end up having another, 2008.
Yeah.
Is this an industry that's going to continue to stay really active during a downturn and continue to help our community to thrive?
There's a bunch of different ways to answer that. The simple, most top line, almost dismissive way is that I don't care what's going on, people pay for kids and pets.
Yes. And I won't-
That's number one.
Yes.
Number two, on a separate exercise, and this might take me off on a tangent, and I apologize. On a separate exercise, I was doing some analysis that the mayor and I were talking about, and I was just looking at trends for sales tax versus public safety. And what I found about sales tax specifically was that we in Gun Barrel have just a baseline of sales tax. You can expect your sales tax to be such and such, whatever that number is, because there's nowhere else that people can shop.
Sure.
Okay? And so I think you combine those two things, that people are still gonna find stuff for their kids to do. We happen to live in an area that even in 2008 and 9, I was in banking at the time, And as bad as it was here, we were still insulated. The Texas economy was resilient through
I
that
had read
just
that.
because of built-in
We were in Colorado at the time.
whatever.
Yeah.
And, it's just better. The environment here is better.
Yeah.
So can I make any guarantees? Absolutely not. But I think if you have a severe retraction in sales tax, you got bigger problems than whether you built a ball
Sure,
field. So-
sure.
Yeah, I will
Does that answer
echo.
that question? I mean,
No, I will
does,
echo
yeah.
that because in our facility, I mean, we do, obviously, the primary focus is athletic training, but we have, personal training, we have rehab, we have special needs kids that we train. The one thing that didn't tail off was the special needs and the youth. The adult stuff went away fast.
Okay,
Okay,
well, there you go.
I mean, that went
They'll go without.
away very, very
Yeah.
quickly.
There's anecdote.
But those two things, and had it not been for that, we would have probably lost our business. So I can tell you, and that's with any parent. I mean, any parent will tell you, they'll do anything for their child, right?
Absolutely.
And in a situation like that. But bringing that up, and I'm glad because you rattled my brain a little bit too. I want to make sure that when we're doing these things too, that we're, just to echo, not only just youth sports, but also the special needs populations.
Okay.
That we are really focused in on that group.
Yeah.
That group of people I know, I've been very active with My Possibilities in Dallas and people like that. And it's been a part of what we do forever, just because my mom instilled it in me.
Yeah.
But not to make a long story short, that is a huge need. I don't know the population here of that, but I would recommend that we at least have that available to anyone. And that's going to be a big driver, because there are parents, and sometimes they don't travel because those kids, there's not another place to have those activities. And if we have stuff like that, those families will travel too. And I'm telling you, you want to talk about families that'll spend endless amounts of money? Talk to special needs population, because those they don't have a lot of alternatives.
Not only that, but so go ahead.
So two things to that. We do at Big Red Schoolhouse, we put on for Impact cheer. They actually have two full cheer groups that are nothing but special needs.
See, that's awesome.
I sit there and I cry.
Yeah.
It is beautiful.
Yeah.
It is something that is needed.
Yeah.
The other thing to that is, as we traveled the southern part of the United States with Lauren playing softball, the parks that had the area for the special needs was constantly full.
Yes.
While the other children were out playing ball.
Yeah.
And it was just one of those things that
Yeah.
I never got a whole lot of time to get away from the ball fields, but that's where I spent my lunch hour.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
They
saying?
have a lot of resources here. They have Cedar Creek Lake Mustangs. They have a number of Special Olympics teams. They've already been to the community center to start
That's
playing
great.
basketball and talking about those things. So we do have some of that programming in place. Keep
That's
that
great.
in mind as we develop it.
One more thing, and I'm really glad you brought it up because I had almost forgotten. Right at the end of our planning, the private partner that I brought in recommended that we add a Miracle League field to our complex there, and it was so that the Texas Rangers would get involved.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And so they were willing to at least throw money at the programming of that field, of the special needs field.
Yeah.
Even though they didn't throw me any money for to build the thing, but.
That's just been a really big
Yeah,
thing
yeah. So
for
I'm glad
me
you brought it up.
as a business owner, but I just think that's a group of people we definitely don't want to forget about.
Me
Build a
too,
bonfire,
Angie.
Janet.
Me
No,
Yeah,
too.
yeah. I
I've
would-
done it as long as
Yeah.
I can do it. I'm cold now.
If I wasn't sitting here talking the whole time,
He's always cold, so I can't believe he's not doing
well, I've
this.
been, adrenaline's up.
Yeah.
Adrenaline's up, baby. Let's go.
That's fair.
Okay, so,
Great conversation.
anything
Yes.
else? Thank you, Charles. I appreciate you very, very much. You're doing a great job.
Thank you.
Mayor, if you can read the next item.
So we will move on in new business. We will go to 4B to discuss the fiscal year 2026, 2027 Gun Barrel City Strategic Plan priorities. I'll turn this over to Dr. Smith.
So we started having these conversations back in October, November, one-on-one in small groups and talking about, we have spent a lot of time getting things in order. And now we really need to start talking about what our next steps, right? You've heard me say over and over, council sets the direction of the city. And it's important that you do that so that I can then take on my role, which is ensuring that my team is headed that way, right? We have a great strategic plan. A year and a half or so ago, we kind of went through it, kind of updated it. We didn't update all the dates, but we did look at, hey, what have we made some accomplishments at? But what we've never really done is taken that list and said, okay, for the next 18 to 24 months, what do you want staff to focus on? I've spent a lot of time with our strategic plan. My leadership team has spent a lot of time with the strategic plan. There will come a time it's time to update it as a whole. But today, this is what we have. Some of the dates are old. I'm not as worried about those dates. Those dates are intended to be guiding when we set that up. Sometimes you have COVID and that slows everything down, right? But what I need as your city manager is, what do you want to focus on for the next 18 to 24 months? And what we focus on is what we put money on, right? And that doesn't mean that staff isn't still a priority or public safety isn't a priority because it's not called out in your strategic plan. It never is. We will have a follow-up meeting on budget priorities in the coming months of what does council want to focus on for budget? So where do you want to see this city go, and what things do you want us to focus on? What I put together for you is just kind of a highlight, right? You have 4 guiding principles, really, 4 or 5. I just have the highlights here. Promoting Gun Barrel City, comprehensive and proactive quality of life program, right? Based on sales tax. The higher quality of life is for your residents and your visitors, that boosts that economy. That employers are able to hire highly trained and productive employees, and then comprehensive long-range planning to, enhance, preserve, and protect the community. And so I went through each of those and pulled out some things. Just my level of, here are some things, you guys have had this since you've had this strategic plan since October. That's when we started talking about it. Sent it to you last week to turn those and help me get some direction. So those are just recommendations from the city manager. I asked Charles to stay for this as we move through this agenda. He may venture out, but some of this also plays into the EDC and that conversation we just had. We had that conversation first, now we get to have this one. What does city council want staff to pour our energy, funds, and time into over the next 18 to 24 months to try to start to reach some of these goals that are outlined in that strategic plan? So you have the whole strategic plan. You also have a copy of mine and staff's as we kind of talk through this recommendations as well. And we have a paper, I'll call it the sandbox. If someone's talking and you've got something in your head that you really want to make sure we cover, run over there and write it on the board. We'll make sure we talk about everything on that board in the interim. But that way you're not stuck thinking, okay, I got to remember to say. And so that's really the direction I'm looking for from you is, as city council that sets the direction of the city, what do you want our team to focus on?
I'll start this off with, I think the increased communication is huge. That way everyone is up to speed. I know everyone can watch online and things of that nature of the city council meetings, but anything we can do to increase communication with citizens, keep them informed about all that we're doing. Maybe if it's I don't know what that looks like. I know we do a good job of that now, but if there's any way we can enhance that, I am definitely not a technological,
We'll figure out the how.
Yeah, you've seen how much I struggle with the iPhone.
Yeah.
So, but I think any type of increased communication as far as that goes takes away any concerns and gathers a lot more of citizens' support for the things that are going on. I think the unknown makes anybody uneasy. So I think an increased communication with citizens would be big on mine part. I will agree with Charles on this, that the July Fest that we put on is incredible. And obviously that's a huge deal. I know that's a great stress and strain on staff though, because I know how much time that eats up and how much work that is. So if there's anything we can do to help with that load, you know, to help you guys with that, I mean, that would be something I would also look at. I don't know that we've,
The festivals,
yes.
the sponsor seasonal
Yes.
concerts and festivals.
And then I'm kind of working backwards, but that's kind of how I see it. To promote visiting and shopping and eating and stuff like that, I mean, I think we've kind of covered some of that and how we want to do that. Our social media platforms, I think, are good, and we just have to continue, I guess, to evolve with that. We have so much more now. I mean, and, you know, I said this at the very beginning. You know, we've accomplished quite a bit. When you go back through and you look at all this, you start to really realize all the things we have done. So now how do we kind of make that like a nice, neat little package in a bow and get that out to everybody? Hey, this is what we've done. This is what we're doing. Make sure you're taking, you know, advantage of this. And are we doing everything we can to make sure everybody knows all about the community center and what a great job that Brooke and her team are doing over there, and just as far as those go. But again, social media is not my thing. I don't have Facebook. I don't have any of that. I don't know any about. I don't even deal with that. I'm not even allowed to do that in my business. So, but anything we can do to make sure that we're at the top of our game with all of that, with information, I think would be a huge, again, that goes into communication.
Yeah, and it talks about on here, keep informed of city, county, and regional activities is what it was talking about.
Yeah.
And I don't know how you would do that. I think that would be hard, but I think that would be great. I met a couple in City Hall one day, actually. I was in here for something, and I saw them walking around, so I just started talking to them. And they were looking to see what was going on around town. And if we had something in there that they could see or take it, I'm like, oh no, and we don't have anything like that here. I mean, you just have to go on Facebook. And they were an older couple. They lived at the condos, and they had 2 places. And they're like, yeah, we don't have Facebook either. And so I'm like, yeah, nowadays without Facebook, I'm not sure how you're supposed to know what's going on. And sometimes I miss things that I would, if I'd have known about it, I'd have went to it. But and I don't live on Facebook either. I might get on there maybe in the evenings every now and then, but I'm trying to find that out too. But so if there was a way. I just don't know how you would do that. If you do a blog, if you do a page.
Well, you can tie it better to the
I don't know.
website. I mean, there's ways we can navigate that once we know kind of what to do, then. we
Well, of
can
course,
help.
if you're
Yeah.
trying to bring people to Gumbel, even if it's just to come watch, whatever it is, like you said, they're gonna eat somewhere, make stuff at the store while they're here, doing stuff, which is what, the whole point of doing that is, and bringing people to the city, which of course goes back to promoting them as well as, our businesses and stuff like that, and then, of course, sponsoring those concerts back, like he was saying, we don't want to put them on, we just want to find people who want to put them on here, so we have to make sure that we have
partners.
somewhere, to do that, and a reason why they want to come to Gumbel to do those.
Knowing that we're we have the retail gravity here, and knowing that we're calling ourselves the Lakeplex, is there a spot for a regional calendar? Like,
Potentially.
I live up in Roy City still. If I want to know what's going on around the lake,
Yeah.
does it make sense for us to be talking about what's going on in Log Cabin if they've got a festival down there?
And I was more talking about
And then how does that
city.
even happen?
I was talking, of course, more
We'll-
about
we'll
city
figure
stuff,
out
but
the
there's
how.
still a lot going on in
What
the
I'm
city.
saying from an
But I'm
economic
saying-
development standpoint,
Yes.
if somebody from Dallas comes to Log Cabin, they're still shopping here.
Yes. Well, and that's what I'm,
I think, remember, we're gonna take this back to the team and
Yeah.
say,
They'll figure out how to
this
do
is a
it.
focus for council.
Yeah.
We're gonna figure out how. I'm not gonna answer that today, cause
Yeah. That's just how it ties back to economic development.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
so like, well, going back to what the conversation that we had, expounding on the lawnmower races and being the lawnmower capital, and the fishing tournaments and the youth.
Yeah.
Can people see that on our website or on social media platforms readily and easily when those are coming up?
I don't know. My point though is those are happening in Gun Barrel City.
Yes.
There was the Cornbread Festival.
Yeah, Malakoff.
That was going on, right?
Malakoff.
I mean, that's a big deal, but does it make any sense? Well, it does to me, but does it make any sense to us, in Gun Barrel for
To promote
people to
those
come
other
to a Gun
events.
Barrel website and be able to figure out what's going on this weekend, the Malakoff Cornbread Festival.
Yes.
But
Knowing
anytime-
that there's an 80% chance they're gonna buy some at Walmart while they're at the Cornbread Festival in another city.
But
I
anytime,
think it makes sense.
anytime you bring them to make them think of Gun Barrel City.
Yes.
That's the whole point, you know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? I used to
agree with
promote things
that.
in our business, we do the football player of the week. I sell insurance.
Yes.
You think I care what the football player of the week is, but it makes them go to my website to look at it, so maybe when they need something, they'll think of me. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? So.
I just don't know, is there some source now, like, if you
Maybe
go
a
to, if you go
chamber
to.
one,
The
maybe?
chamber will
Well,
go
so
over
I was
that,
gonna say
the
that,
newspaper
so
will
I
do
was looking
that.
for that on the Rangers ad we're putting together, I was gonna put a QR code to that events calendar. Well,
We don't necessarily.
that thing
I
is
don't-
hard as heck to decipher.
Yeah.
I don't like it.
The
The
chamber
EDC
calendar.
used to, that's what they used to leave, when you put the click on calendar, it would take me to the chamber calendar, and I thought I was on the EDC calendar, because I was trying to figure out when a meeting
But-
was or whatever, it was
But if
terrible.
I'm in, I don't know, if I'm in Abilene, wanting to look for something to do in or around Gun Barrel City, I don't care about the business after hours.
Right.
I care about the cornbread,
Yeah,
Absolutely.
or the lawnmower race, or whatever.
Yeah, so
Anyway,
I think, yeah,
don't
if
wanna
we could
spend
do
too
that.
much time hijacking
Yeah.
a conversation, but I do think it ties back to economic development, everything that's going on around the lake.
And I don't think it's just us
Yeah.
that we have that problem with. My wife works in the city of Athens. The Hamburger Festival and the Fiddlers is probably the biggest thing there. But it also helps be able to promote that throughout. But it sneaks up on you.
Yeah.
And I actually get, because she is with the city of Athens, I have a calendar that pops up on mine once a week, and it says what's coming up, when, where, and how, and as it comes up and it disappears, one more kicks on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And it's just a thing that they put out there, so, I mean,
What we're gonna do is look at options on how we help with that regional.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
I don't know that answer.
Beautiful.
But I have some ideas, but we don't wanna tie ourselves
No.
up talking
No, no,
about
no.
every idea, we'll figure that out, so.
All right.
The other thing I really want to touch on is the workforce development and how we can move forward with that goal. I mean, like the mayor said, especially now that we have the community center, you know, do we partner with Maybank High School? Do we partner with TVCC and
Yes.
bring some teachers out here to Gun Barrel? You know, what are some things that we could teach our residents that would benefit us?
well, it includes like GED classes, it could be,
Absolutely.
you know, just
Absolutely,
different things,
yep.
you know what I'm saying? So I think, we'll have to leave, I mean, we definitely wanna do that, but somehow, I think the community center is just open, you know what I'm saying? I do think that's on the, you know, the to-do things, I think, right, you know what I'm saying, to do
And I
some of those kind of
think
things.
one of the reasons you had a small business group and a large business group with the EDC originally, and Stephen can share this, is there was a goal to start to do workforce development. Well, you can't do workforce development until you know what you need, right? So our partnership with Charles is helping us better understand what do our people need. We've done some joint workshops with Kaufman, for example. We did one with the governor's office. I went, Stuart and Kaufman, we worked very closely together. What Kaufman needs is high-tech positions, right? They're bringing in things that require high-tech jobs. We've been to a couple of different over the last couple of years. So once we kind of know what do our businesses need, then we can help them develop workforce programs around that. And that was kind of the goal of the two different was, hey, EDC members, get out and visit these businesses, find out what they need, we can work with. I mean, I'm in a TVCC, right? We have a direct connection to them. I can work with them to bring in people, the SBDC, to help these guys do that. And so that's one thing that we've kind of been talking about too, is what do we need? Because if I give stuff and it's not something they need,
It
so
won't be
yeah.
utilized.
So I think that's part
mean,
of
I-
that is understanding, again, if workforce development is a priority, now we figure out those steps underneath that. How do we figure out what we need? How do we work to get people?
I mean,
What-
I can say this pretty strongly because, you know, my husband and I, we work in the construction industry. We need tradespeople in this area badly. We have been approached about a project that we cannot put a bid in on, because we know we would have to hire more journeymen, and there are not enough qualified journeymen out here around this lake that are worth anything. Like we would have to look outside of the area for that workforce. So I think any trade, apprenticeships, partnering with some of the bigger companies. I know G4 is one of the bigger electrical companies out here. I think they have an apprenticeship program. What are some of the other companies that we could partner with and
Or what if we did a job fair?
absolutely.
What if we did a job fair? We now have a place that we can do something like that, right? That's the beauty of that center, right?
Yeah.
But you can do things like that, and then you get a better idea, because now you have your actual retailers and your small business owners, and they'll tell you based on that, they'll tell you what they need, right?
Sure.
But I don't know, I'm just throwing that out there.
And like, in that vein, we will have a hard time teaching people to be journeymen.
Yeah.
But,
Sure.
I can get GED, I can get customer service, I can get math.
Sure.
I can get, it would be hard for me.
It's more about giving people the information, like
Yeah.
this is where you can go,
Yeah.
and having some clear communication with those resources, and bringing those resources right here so that we can connect people with
Right.
those
And
resources.
I think that's the hard part, right, does that ultimately help the city, is what I would ask council. How does us serving as that?
It helps the
benefit
city
the
because
law.
it elevates the people that live here and the income that they make, and then they are spending more dollars in our businesses because they make more money.
It's hard, and we want that for people, but they have to want it. I mean, so it's like, that's what the Texas Workforce Commission, or the Texas Workforce is. When you call to find them, and what jobs do they have, and where can I go, and what I can do, and all the print and
But
things
it's
like
not
that.
here. I have to drive. I did
We
this
call
with
them.
Aiden. I had to drive Aiden all the way over to Terrell to get him his laptop because he was a special needs kid. That it's not convenient.
No, but we're not gonna get that here in Gumbel, not as Gumbel City. You're gonna have to get a workforce, if that's what you're talking about, to come here and be their own little place over there, not what the city can do for that. I mean, how's the city supposed to get laptops and give them all those kinds of things?
No, that's not what I'm saying.
You just want them to get information to send him to Terrell?
I want that resource closer
I agree, that's what I'm
to
saying,
here.
you're gonna have to get a
I
workforce to
want-
come here. You're
right.
gonna have to, that's a totally different thing, yes. That's not something we can put at the community center, is what I'm trying to say.
But we can give them access to use the community center to put on classes out
Yes.
here.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can
absolutely.
do classes, yeah, we talked
Absolutely.
about that, just want to do that, but yeah.
Well, and it's my understanding that's been done in the past with like the Small Business Development
Yeah.
Center and so
That-
same
and that's all the
formula.
way in Athens.
Same formula, different widgets, yeah, but they know, we've got a relationship with them. This is the one that I built well, I haven't built it, it was there already. But I've kept this going because they've opened the communication up. They know that if there's a meeting that they need to have, that my office is open, our conference room is open. They, at some point, we're probably gonna do another seminar for entrepreneurship. You can, I mean, as time goes on, we'll get into doing that with other things. But workforce is something, it doesn't turn like a speedboat, it turns like a
Yeah.
oil tanker, you know?
But I
It takes
think
a long
knowing that
time.
that's something this group wants
Yeah.
to focus on, then allows us to brainstorm
Yep.
about
Yeah.
how to do it.
Yeah.
Like, it would be very
Yep.
difficult for us to teach trades,
Yeah,
we're
sure.
never gonna be able to do that. But we can partner with Workforce Solutions, we can partner with TWC, we can partner with SBDC, we can partner with TBCC.
That's all I'm
It's
asking.
not gonna
Yep.
be turnkey.
Yep.
ISD,
I have to say,
yeah.
Yeah.
But you are going to have those relationships built in
Yeah.
to begin to build some workforce development.
But again, that's what we're
We're not
doing.
gonna become a one-point resource for everything workforce, but we can start to drive education through that.
Yes.
If I know, that's why it's hard to sit here and brainstorm when we're
No.
talking about what do we wanna do and set
Yeah.
those
We're just
big
throwing out
goals,
ideas.
because there are so many ways to do it.
Absolutely.
But if I know workforce development is a driver,
We definitely want
we
to,
begin
yes.
to work on that.
And I'm thinking of that collab situation, it's another meritorious reason to have relationships and economic development, like you just talked about with
Yeah,
Stewart.
100%.
Yeah, we definitely want, well, we just want to improve them, to give them what they need to make them successful in life, to improve their life. as
And
well.
that's under guiding principle 3.
Yes.
Yeah.
Goal A,
Mm-hmm.
unify goals between workforce and economic development.
Now, I will bring this up, just because I've heard it from a lot of different constituents, is that it's hard for people that don't have transportation to get around, get to appointments, get to certain things.
Yep.
I know there's a service, they say there is a service that does that, but they say you have to make an appointment so far in advance, and then sometimes they show, sometimes they don't. I don't know if there's anything that we can do to help that. So that's all I'm gonna bring up, is just,
So you're saying there's just a need, there is a need though in the
Yes.
area for transportation?
Yes.
However that may be.
yes. For-
And I do see that, I see people on Facebook, hey, I need to get to
I
my
need a
doctor.
ride to-
I don't
I
have a
just see
problem
a lot of
paying, I
that.
just don't have
Yeah.
anyone to do it, who can
Yeah.
take me.
Yeah.
You know, I do see that quite often.
I will tell you that East Texas Council of Governments has a pretty good program. There's no way to do transportation without having to schedule it.
Sure.
The need is too big.
Oh, for sure. But I'm just saying, in
but
addition to
maybe-
what we already have.
Maybe, I guess that is a question for council. Do you want us to be in the business of trying to organize transportation?
No, I think he's just
No.
talking about recruiting a
Yeah,
business to do
but
it.
is there, or can we, I guess, can we be a little bit more, I guess, involved with them as far as making sure that they're being as, what's the word I'm looking for, attentive to those needs as possible? And maybe they have a shortage, maybe they don't have enough people either.
They're never gonna have,
Yeah, but I'm just saying, if there's anything that we can do, and maybe there's volunteers, maybe there's people around the lake that would volunteer, to do stuff like that, I don't have any, I'm just throwing stuff
Yeah.
out there.
I mean, I think it's a need, but I just don't know how as a city, saying how to help them. I mean,
No, I'm just saying, I'm bringing up stuff that I've heard and people have.
It's definitely a need.
Yeah,
Yeah,
No
and then-
question.
okay,
For sure.
moving on.
But I'm gonna go in here for reviewing the ETJ and current annexing strategies and consider improving visibility of Main Street. So the ETJ for sure, I also, when we do the ETJ, we need to be looking at the, what's the water plan called? I call it
CCN.
the CCN, because I know there is some things that may not be in our CCN that's in our ETJ, and, that's how we lose property. And I've had that conversation a couple of years ago where we need to start looking at who is in our ETJ and what the CCN is, and try to get ahead of that and not be behind it so we don't lose more land in Gumboro like we did here in Gumboro.
Was that a separate note or is that in here? Are you?
It's.
Oh, sorry, so it's,
writing
3B.
principle 3B.
Okay.
3B.
Oh, review, okay. No, I was looking right at it.
And of course, we were talking about how, you were talking about doing the, what's that, the east side of 175. I mean, we only have 325 feet from the middle of the road.
Yeah.
So everybody just builds behind it because they don't have to deal with
Right.
it, what I'm saying? So really, unless somebody wants to be a part of the city or wants to do it, then they're gonna build it behind the 325, or might we lose on that too? You know what I'm saying? And then, of course, the other question is are we making it, are there other roads, like we talked about the Luther Lane, or is there gonna be a Luther Lane extension that goes on up? Is there a way to, I don't know, make that where it's gonna be commercial, where we can have businesses, just try to somehow expand in any way possible. I don't know how to do that or anything like that, but.
That's something we can look at.
Yep. Very good.
What about under the second guiding principle, comprehensive proactive quality of life program? There's enhanced livability in Gun Barrel City, creating a database to match all volunteers, recruiting more recreational and entertainment type venues. I think we just talked about that.
Yep.
I think that was a priority that you outlined for Charles even. The other one is more residential
Those are
street lights and
transportation.
fire hydrants.
Oh, that was one of the things.
That's 3 I picked out, but there are others up in section 2.
I don't remember where it is in here.
Tell me what it is and I can probably tell you.
No, it's not on that. It's somewhere in here. It talks about sidewalks along, Legendary and down Welch, and making this a more walkable city. Like, it's really, I don't know if, I know Welch and Legendary, it's terribly unsafe for people that are walking back and forth to the gas station right there.
And they love to wear black clothes.
Okay? We'll add that and we can put together some information. Fire hydrants and streetlights are another one. Takes right-of-ways, takes
Sure.
easements,
Sure.
takes areas to do that. Sidewalks are another one.
Yep.
They're extremely expensive. Concrete is not
Okay.
inexpensive, but we can, if that is a focus, we can
Especially when you have
absolutely.
bar ditches,
It's
then it's even harder.
Bar ditches make it harder.
That's
because
what's
then
down,
you
that's
go
what's
through
down
drainage.
both of those are bar
If
ditches.
that is something as a group council wants us to look at, we're happy to do that. I just need to know kind of.
Well, it's not that I mean, I could shoot for the moon, but the reality of that is I just know how hard that would be, because we have bar ditches, we'd have to build that, we'd have to build the sidewalks, I mean, I just don't know that, that we'd have the funds to do
If an
so.
opportunity comes up and it's a long-term goal way down the road,
Sure.
I would just like that to be something.
But
that we
it'd
think
be good
about
to
at
see the
some
number.
point.
Sure. I agree.
There is more to it than just that, so we
Yeah.
can put that on maybe
Okay.
the end of the 24-month thing, but,
Sure.
looking at that, absolutely.
Okay. Anything else?
Anything else under 2 specifically?
So explain the create a database to identify and match volunteer opportunities for volunteers of all ages. What's the thought behind that?
Huh?
What's your thought behind that? Like, for what purpose?
Well, for events, for boards and commissions, for, I truly believe that is something we need to be focusing on. We do a lot of events, we have a lot of boards and commissions, as you know, we have 5 or 6 open spaces today,
Sure.
right? So what that does is allow us to build our volunteer base.
To have people to reach
yeah,
out to.
What does it look like? I mean, there's 100 ways to do
Oh, no, and I
it.
just want to make sure what you were talking about, and I get what you're saying, because we do
I
that too
think-
for
I
our,
think
for,
it's that, just
Yeah.
more building that volunteer base.
and what people are interested in and what they
Right.
want to do.
Hey,
and-
everybody sign up, and then when we have something, we have a board position open, we have a group to then send that to and say, hey, here's an opportunity, here's an event coming up, and it
Yeah.
involves more and more people in what we do as the city. That's why I think it's something that really we could do over the next 18 to 24 months to focus on that.
And I think so, because I think a lot of times people may want to volunteer in some aspect, even if it's the haunted, Halloween, or, you know what I'm saying,
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
But they could, but they just didn't know how to do it, or how to get involved, or whatever, so.
And these will all come back to y'all at a meeting to say, hey, yes, that's what today, we're just getting general consensus and we can, take it back apart. That was kind of the thought behind it, is we do have a gap in having volunteers and needing volunteers, and it just hasn't been a focus. It's like, oh, here we have this, who wants to volunteer? But we haven't built that base of, hey, here's 25 people that are willing to give their time. How do we then match them with opportunities, whatever those opportunities are?
I think that's a good idea. We do that for where I live, from our community. We have different people want to do different things, whatever their heart is, or whatever it is that they like, they enjoy to be a part of.
Yeah,
And of course, we did recruit more recreation, we already talked about that.
yeah, we talked
And then
about
we
that
talked about,
one.
then of course, we got the street lights and the fire hydrants for sure.
Yeah, one of our challenges again on streetlights and fire hydrants is right of ways. That is something that we can't spend public enhancement dollars on a lot. We can spend it on that. Streetlights are complicated because electricity, running it is extremely expensive. There are solar options, but then a lot of our roadsides are covered in trees. So that's something just, Rita has brought up numerous times. Rita and I have had a lot of conversations about. I had side conversations with Rita that, hey, let's get this as a priority and let's start looking at it, right? Let's start looking at where are fire hydrants with Colby. Colby is very gung-ho, the new chief. Really building these systems are important to him. Let me work with him. Let me work with our street department to look at where do we have them? How do we potentially put in solar lights? What does that look like? It was something Rita and I talked about before this budget. It just takes time, and I need council consensus. We want to focus on that, and we're happy to put together a plan to look at it. And sidewalks can be part of that. It's just part of what comes with it, I think.
Of course, we had already talked about the expansion and attraction of more restaurants, hotels, and retails for
Yes.
sure.
That's when I started going through this, I was like, oh, some of these are definitely
So-
Charles, I need to keep him around.
The B4, under 3, item 3, consider improve the viability of Main Street's west end. So, that is a floodplain, is that correct?
Where, tell me,
Where we wanted to do the food,
Oh, we're not doing the food truck down there, but
No.
they're doing, those people who own, he's the one down by the movie theater.
Right.
Back there on the backside, that's what he was talking about. And yes, that is a floodplain back, there is a floodplain back
portion
there.
of it is
Yes.
floodplain.
yes,
I think this is specifically talking about that where Pier 334, so you've done some of that.
sure,
I would also argue East End is something,
That's also there,
that's the
yeah.
ETJ. This is speaking specifically about Main Street and how do you develop this lakefront on this end? You're doing that partially with Pier 334. What
Sure.
about the other side of the street? And then down the east end, how do you begin to build out that retail on that end of town too? And that will take some annexation. Now, we've been beneficial, right? We had a Brittany's not here, I'll look for Brittany, residential development that annexed in some of that property. But how does that all kind of plays into that too, being able to carry that the other way as well?
And then, of course, don't forget about the one about south too, you know,
Yeah.
so you got 198 south, which, it's not a whole bunch down there, but there's still some areas down there too.
Yeah, and we can alter those and add west end, east end, and 198 south as well. And then we talked about support the expansion of more restaurants. Anything else in 3? Specifically,
We did all those A, B, and C.
yeah,
yep.
and then you've got 4, the comprehensive long-range planning.
And we definitely need to do those. We definitely have to have a schedule for city-owned vehicles, equipment,
Yeah,
and there's of course, so that we, I know, so we don't get behind.
Right.
Like we have had in the past, we want to make sure we stay on top of that for sure. And of course, we know we're making our last payment this year on our fire truck.
Fire truck, that's-
So I know that that's
2025, yes.
that's not a small purchase, so.
It's not, something Colby and I have already started talking about. I think one of the holes in Gun Barrel is succession planning and cross-training. We've done a lot of that for the last 2 years.
Yep.
But we still have some gaps where we have a department that only has one person. City treasurer, city secretary, community center. Well, there's some part-timers, we've got some gaps in there that we have to kind of figure out. Some of that succession planning, you know, Joey retired, Colby was ready. You know, we had 2 that were ready to step into that position, so it was competitive. So how do you do some succession planning? And I think that's less about long-range strategic planning for the city and more a pitfall we have to make sure we don't step into, right? Is there someone that can take over if that happens? Something serious happens and somebody's out for an extended period of time. So
Absolutely.
that's why I put that on there. It's always going to be a priority for me. And then the last one I added was
Absolutely want to, pursue grants for sure.
grant
Yes.
funding. I will tell you, your Parks Board is jumped on that. They formed subcommittees. Their first grant will go out at the end of January for trail improvements. They're not asking for $1 million. They're asking, let's start here and make it better, and then how do we grow from there? They've already looking at tennis grants and pickleball grants and different things like that. But everybody, and PD is doing the same thing. They're looking at how do we get grants to fund some of these things, so even some of the mandates we have to have, right? With some of the new laws. And so we're really, I've shared with you that Brittany has expressed an interest in doing that. So if that, I feel like that's something we need to continue to focus on with council's
Yes.
consensus. But is there anything else in 4, right, that we did greatly? We were able to accomplish all emergency response departments. We got that new EOC open, and the part of the generator situation came in yesterday, and the rest of it will be here in Ships January 16th, so it'll be here shortly. They'll be here the same day to install it, so we're super excited about
That's
that.
great.
That gets
Nice.
set up and running, and it'll operate the entire center, so.
That's
Rachel's
important.
there.
We couldn't have it.
But we've got the things in place, and we've begun to use it for meetings to kind of, see how that goes. And you've got the Perry-weather system right there, that's weather detection. You've got this, we were in there yesterday, they set the storm sirens off, there's a storm siren. So all of those things are working together the way that this plan intended to. And that's not me or y'all, that's just, we were able to really pull that together and make it work.
That's great.
So, anything else, like one thing that came up is sidewalks. That's not necessarily on this plan, but it is something we want on the radar. Is there anything else on your radar that you want us to look on? We've talked a lot about the EDC and development and retail and secondary drivers, right? So, Charles gave me a new word, secondary drivers.
I think we brought up
People are
everything
so
that
sick
I
of me
wanted.
saying that, it's kind of funny.
I feel like they're
I
saying
use it
you
for
saying that.
everything. I'm like, the secondary driver.
We
is,
haven't
and
even
I'm
talked about tertiary drivers.
Right? My family is like, please don't say
One
that.
step at a time, Charles, one step at a time.
Yeah.
Anything else on the strategic priorities that you want us to really focus on? And then what we're gonna do is put this together. You will provide me direction in a formal matter at the next meeting. And then my team will take each of those items and start to put together, how do we accomplish this over 12, 18, 24 months? And it helps me and them have these longer term goals that their performance has been measured by.
I think we're on a great path.
Yeah, I love it.
It's been a good conversation, and I think we're all pretty much in agreement on the things that we want to focus on, and I'm thrilled. I'm
Yeah.
excited.
And again, don't lose sight of the things we have accomplished.
Absolutely.
That's, we're to be, the whole staff's been to be commended on all the hard work and the people that have come before us. There's been a lot of work and a lot of planning, councils and people before us, so we're in a good spot.
And there's a lot of longer term goals, right?
Sure.
How do we connect these neighborhoods? We have a lot of one-way, dead-end, long streets that don't connect side to
Sure.
side. So if Legendary gets shut down, how do those people get out? But those are things that have to stay on the radar for longer term
Sure.
planning and prioritizing. There's always a running list, y'all know
Yeah.
It's
that.
hard when you're surrounded by water on a peninsula.
Yeah.
It is
There's
complicated.
not a whole lot of options
There
there.
aren't, and there
Yeah.
aren't in any communities. That's not a Gun Barrel specific
No.
issue. Any community that has the longs, that don't have great connectivity, and the way these communities were built, right? It's difficult, so.
Yeah, I know when I moved here, I said, that's a really cool name for the neighborhood, Eastwood Island. He goes, it's not meant to be cool, that's really an island. There's only one way in and one way out. And I was like, oh, okay, all right. And that was the reality of it. Geographically, it is exactly what they say it is. Any other further things under that heading? 4B. Are we good?
Yeah, I think so.
Then at this time, under new business, we will move to 4C. We will discuss animal control ordinance and our next steps there.
I'm gonna move away from the table while y'all talk.
So in your packet was
Smart.
included a lot of information. It was the original ordinance, it was the repealed ordinance, and then it was, what I provided you that came out of public comment, conversations, town halls, as potential changes, or concerns, if you will. So you have those in front of you. One of the big ones was, what is the definition of an assistance animal? It's very important to note that, and what I need from council tonight before we move from this item is, how do you want to move forward? What are next steps for me and my team with this ordinance? I made some minor changes to this. One was the difference in an assistance animal and a, what's the word?
Service.
Service, thank you, Jennifer. The difference in an assistance animal and a service animal. A service animal has a very specific definition. An assistance animal has a very specific definition. They are not the same. An assistance animal is identified by the Fair Housing Act, right? And so I went to the Fair Housing Act and found their definition, and that's what we use. It has to do with, can you have an animal in a house that doesn't allow dogs, right? That is what an assistance animal is defined as. And then a service animal, that's in there. Some of the concerns that we heard about were 90.03, which is the enforcement of it. I will tell you, these things are allowed by state law for an animal control officer. I pulled up what is allowed, and these are directly in line with that. If council wants to make changes or do anything with that. Some of the concerns we heard were the slaughtering of animals, that it's unlawful for a person to slaughter, skin, or defeather an animal within the city, unless as part of a bona fide licensed business. And, you know, you and I all had conversations about this. We had conversations with this about at the town halls with residents about this. And, you know, I think some of council said, I don't want people hanging a deer in their front yard.
I don't. I
And-
guess I don't have a problem skinning it, done with it, but don't leave that thing for 3
Right,
days and then the
right.
whole neighborhood stinks, you
Right,
know?
and so I would recommend maybe you take that out and either we find a better definition for it, or at that point it becomes a health hazard when it's hung there 3 days, right? But could I raise chickens and defeather them? Well, I mean, potentially, yes, right? I think the intent of this is most neighborhoods don't want people gutting deers in their driveway.
Sure.
Right, that was the point. So, but that was something we heard a lot about, so I'm offering that up for you guys to have a conversation
Well,
about.
and the reality is that, you know, the HOAs are gonna have a say. Like, if they don't want that in their neighborhood, they're going to, do what they need to do to make sure
Yeah.
that that does not happen in their neighborhood.
Yeah,
So,
and maybe that is something that you punt to your neighborhood associations to figure out how to do.
It's a lot harder to enforce, and then, I mean, I'd have to
get
take
it.
them to court.
I get
Yeah.
it.
You know what I'm saying, to
Yeah.
do that.
So-
But I think that, E, or is it now A, right, so it takes care of the dead animal thing. I don't have a problem with someone
Yeah.
skinning, taking care of, doing meat, whatever. I mean,
Yeah.
my husband, we've done that in the past, but I just shouldn't, it's the smell or the dead stuff afterwards, cleaning it up. But E addressed that, so shouldn't be any
It
issue with
does?
that. It says dead animals, it shall be unlawful for any person to permit a carcass on any dead animal to be or remain upon any property of control for more than 24 hours
24 hours.
after the death. So,
Yep. So those were the two big ones that we heard. I'm still flipping. Again, as you know, the fees were a concern. We kicked this back and forth, for a long time about how to handle that. Registration 90.41
Expiration.
was the next one. There was some confusion about commensurate with their rabies vaccination. My recommendation is you just have to renew every year. I did a lot of research. I looked at a bunch of different cities. Most of them say you have to register every year. That way people know, you know, where the dogs are and all that. At the end of the day, I stand by my point is it's easier for us to return a dog that's chipped. And more cities are requiring chipping. A lot of cities require you to register your dog. It allows us to have a track of where the dogs live and get them back where they need to be.
I'm kind of at the point now where I think there aren't any initial fees,
So
right?
if you scroll to the last page, my recommendation is, and the same, this was my recommendation at the beginning is, I would rather register your dog for free and charge you when I have to go get it,
Yes.
right? I need council to make decisions about the requirement of chipping. I'm happy to chip dogs for free.
Yes.
It helps us to be chipped. Registered is almost as good as long as we can find that dog in our system, right? But that would be my recommendation, and then, you know, an impound fee. We are keeping some dogs. If we know they kind of belong in the neighborhood, we're hanging on to them, and Carol's trying to find their owner as opposed to taking them directly. We took 14 dogs last month to the Humane Society. Because we have some that we don't know who they belong to, we gotta get rid of them. And
Right.
we don't know if they've got shots, and we shouldn't be keeping them if we have to keep multiple. But sometimes we go to a house and we know it's a situation where we're gonna have to pull dogs and the SPCA is gonna come get them, or a rescue is gonna come get them, and we might hang on to them. We can't do that in the dead of winter. We can't do that when it's 30 degrees outside. We can do it right now when it's nice outside, right? We can hang on to a dog for 72 hours, and if we can't find the owner, then take it over to the Humane Society. But you'll see there, my recommendation is don't charge for registration. We have the software to do it. My staff has the outlet to do it. We can take a picture of the dog. We can register their rabies tag. We can register their chip. We can chip for free. We've been chipping for free, and we are continuing to chip dogs. Everybody who asks, we chip. If they ask, Carol shows up here and chips them. It takes 2 seconds. And then you up those impoundment fees. So if there's an unrestrained dog that is vaccinated and does have proof of registration and or chipping, maybe it's $100 for the first offense and $150 for the second. And if it's not vaccinated and there is no proof of registration or chipping, then it gets higher than that. And so we do not impound livestock. We call the county and they have a service that comes and picks it up. So we don't touch livestock at all. We should take that out. And then, breeder's permit and then other fees, and those are assessed as situations warrant, and those are assessed by the municipal court. And the one thing Grace asked is there are different fees for different things, maybe up that to $1,500 based on what state law allows. So that's what I did. But those are, as you know, we made an effort to have town halls. I had some call me outside of those town halls and provide me information and help me understand their concerns. But the fact of the matter is, that's what we heard, that's what we updated. And more people are putting these ordinances in place, and we have a great ordinance. There's nothing wrong with our ordinance. This is very much in line with not just my previous city, but other cities around the lake that are doing it. Tool requires you to register your dog. Like, this is not brain surgery. So, but we have put this on the back burner while we got through getting a lot of things done, and now it is time to have a conversation about how does council want to carry this forward.
So are we good with, it's a voluntary registration and chipping, correct?
Well,
I would
it's not necessarily voluntary, but if you don't do it, it's twice the fee.
It is a required registration,
Yeah.
voluntary
Optional
shipping.
microchipping, yes.
Okay.
So voluntary chipping, but required registration.
Yes.
Is there anything else in the ordinance that you have heard from your constituents that?
I think there's been a real misconception of we were gonna come in there and go door to door and take people's animals from them. We were never going to do that.
No,
I wanna be on the record, we were never, ever, ever going to do that.
we were.
Can we go over, I have to find where it's at, the chickens? What is, because I know at one point we were going to allow up to 6 to align with state law, but then state law, they didn't change that.
They didn't. It's up, again, I think it's 9018, that's fowl.
It is,
Keeping a
page
fowl
14.
such as roosters, ducks, turkeys, geese. Chickens, no person shall keep more than 6 hens in an area zoned residential. I will tell you, when the ordinance passed, we had a lot of people
Yep,
that bought
I understand
chickens.
that.
They have since had to get rid of said chickens. Up to council how you want to do that. I think the state will continue in their legislation to talk about chickens. It's now been on at least 2 sessions and gotten cut at the last minute.
Yep.
There is some ambiguity about whether you can have chickens or not today, and people are defaulting to the city ordinance in most cases on that, because there are some farm and ranch and some different state laws out there, so ordinances have taken the lead on that, but it's up to council on how you feel about that. I think it's coming. I think it's just a matter of time.
So do we just want to continue watching state law and make, amend that when we get to that point?
That is entirely up to council. I don't know that I have a problem with chickens, right?
So, oh, it sounds so crazy, I don't know a lot about chickens, I don't want chickens, but are all chickens are not hens, right?
Correct.
So then how many other chickens can they have if 6
Well,
hens are the
and hens
limit?
and roosters, right? So I
So they
think,
can have 16 roosters and 6 hens?
well, this is, you can have no more than 6 hens, period.
But we're talking about hens, I'm talking about roosters.
This is no roosters. This says
Oh, okay,
you
no
have
roosters.
no more than 6 hens.
But it doesn't say you couldn't have roosters, that's what I'm trying to understand,
Yeah,
does that make
I was
sense?
with you, I was
Yeah.
like, yeah.
I thought-
Maybe we
And
clarify
and
that.
roosters eat just as well as chickens, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean that. But-
Yeah, we can add a line that says no roosters. I think this.
But it's right above it, well, it says prohibited, the one right above it says it, I didn't read that, it's been a while since I read this one.
Oh, yeah, the keeping of.
Roosters,
that.
ducks, turkeys, geese, peacocks.
Roosters,
and
okay,
penis
no, I see
Are
them.
prohibited,
Yep,
are
yep,
prohibited.
yep, yep, yep.
That's what I was trying to
I
understand,
didn't
make sure.
No, there you go.
Yep.
And they prohibit roosters because they
There
really
was
loud.
something, and I forgot. Oh, yeah, here I want to talk about, page 6. You changed under the enforcement is allowed by law, under F. It says when the animal is on public property in all cases was when, the animal control power had the power to seize. And now you put in the words not in control of the owner. And I know this sounds terrible, but what do you consider control? I know what control means to me, but what everybody means, like, he was right here beside me. I had control of him, he was right here.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Well, that wasn't really probably the
You
truth.
could say not on a leash.
But that's-
I was trying to pick, like, one of the things, I had a gentleman call me and he said, so if I go to the dog park, right, so this was the question. I go to the dog park and I'm on public property, can the animal control officer come take my dog? And I said, well, is the dog under your control? Are you standing there with your dog? Not necessarily on a leash because he's in the dog park. If he's in the park, he's gotta be on a leash. So we use that as a general term of not in control of the owner. If it's running up and down the street and the owner's in the house on the couch, that's not in control of the owner. If the owner is standing in the yard and the dog is meandering,
This is public property.
Yeah,
So I'm
yeah.
just talking about, because
Well,
I have people who
streets.
walk down my
Yeah,
street and
yeah.
the dog's walking with them.
yeah,
Is that control?
in some cases it is
Yes.
100%.
Probably
saying.
more
Yeah.
control than a leash.
Yeah.
Well,
In some cases,
not ours
yes.
isn't. Ours is
So
mostly,
that's-
ours
that's
is just
something
one's
to
following
decide.
it. So
Yeah.
I say
added
no,
that.
because what's gonna
Yeah.
happen is when then the next time the person walks by or whatever, then there goes that dog.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it kind of says that while I have control, I don't have to have a leash.
Well, so, like mine, we play out in the front yard since I don't have much of a backyard.
Yeah.
And we play frisbee, and if another dog walks up, he knows his boundary. And if he goes kennel, as soon as I say kennel, stops right there at the spot. I have control of my dog in my front yard, and people still look at me like I'm a bad person, or my dog's dangerous. It is a German Shepherd,
Yeah.
it's actually Lawrenceburg. But control
That's
is
not even the
there.
dangerous one.
Yeah, but we're just talking about public property.
Yeah, no.
I
So,
mean,
I mean,
it's-
you
I'm
can say
still
on
talking
a
about
leash.
public.
But to me, walking to the dog park, leash. In the dog park,
Oh, the dog park is an off-leash area in the
Yes.
park, so
Okay.
that
But
was
that's
an
what I'm saying.
extreme
It's
situation.
Well,
a
that's
leash
what
law.
I was trying to figure out. I'm like, the leash is not required inside of the fence, right?
Right.
Then he's in, so why would you even ask me that question? So, but putting it in the control, I just think control is a very,
Ambiguous.
it is an ambiguous word. And so if you're asking the police or animal control to be able to, I think it's gonna have a very hard time to figure out who has control.
So would you feel more comfortable if it said when the animal is on public property and not leashed?
That probably clarifies,
Well, I
but
was just trying to figure out
That
what
does
the purpose of
Yeah.
this whole entire sentence was.
Yeah,
They have the power to seize, search, seize, and impound an animal without a warrant or a court order with probable cause when the animal is on public property. I would say, I guess not on a leash, right?
and not, it would say when the animal is on public property and not leashed.
that
I would
clarifies
say
better.
that.
Yeah.
I would clarify.
And the dog park is a unique situation because that is an off-leash area of the
Sure.
park.
Well, I mean,
But to me, walking to.
who's gonna think that the animal control is gonna go to the public park and say, your dog ain't on a leash, you're out of here? I mean, we're not,
People that have been made to
Terrible
fear
people.
these things. so. Nope, nobody's gonna do that. You're 100% right. Just like nobody's gonna kick in a door to steal a family pet, right? To take advantage of, to take a family pet to the Humane Society. That's not the purpose. But,
Gotcha. Yep, I'm good with everything else. I was just,
sorry,
control is
I
just
missed
very
that one. I was
hard.
trying to catch them as I went.
It's just a
That's all
hard
the
word. I was
places.
just trying to find
No,
a,
that's
a
fair, and I
better
went back and
word.
forth, and I was like, okay, well, I could make the argument of not in control if you bring up the dog park, but the dog park is an off-leash area, so,
I wasn't controlled until you brought your dog over here.
yeah, that's true, 100%.
When we were talking about chipping and stuff like that, and I don't mean to go backwards.
That's okay.
No, it's okay.
But, had a gentleman go back one time, not here, and mowed the backyard. Didn't like it. Animal control took possession of my animal. A buddy of mine was down the street. Daisy belongs here. Can I take? Yes. Still wrote me a ticket for $150. That wasn't bad. It was that I had to go to doggy school.
Arlington, that's
It
because
was
you live in
actually
Arlington.
animal school. We talked about alligators in Arlington more than we did anything else.
The
But it was
attorneys in
2.5
Arlington.
hours
Yeah,
of my day to make sure that my lawn guy will not ever leave that gate open again, or he's gonna pay me the
Sure.
$150 and he's gonna go to doggy school for me.
I will
And
tell
the
you,
second time was gonna be $250.
the city of Arlington also does not forget if you adopt a dog and you don't get said dog fixed.
Oh, no.
Most animal shelters, if you adopt a dog and they give you a coupon and you say, I'm
Right.
gonna do it,
You
you
have
go
to
off.
do it within
and
a certain
they
amount of-
never follow
yeah.
up. The city of Arlington, 12 years later, will come and issue a warrant for your arrest. If, I don't know that firsthand, I had a friend it happened to. They had, it was a teacher, she had gotten a dog out of the animal shelter for a student that was absolutely heartbroken. Parents couldn't afford to go get the dog. She went and signed the dog out, and they told her to get the dog fixed, and she got a letter in the mail like 6 years later that she had a warrant out for her arrest because she not that dog fixed. It wasn't even her dog, right? But the minute she took possession of it,
It's
It's her responsibility.
dog all gone.
Yeah. Wow.
Friend is trying to pay off the warrant to get out of trouble with the city of Arlington. I'd never seen that before.
So now that you're bringing that up, but the Humane Society is doing that before they
Yes.
send them
Yes.
home, or making sure that
Yes,
people are doing
They are
that.
making
Or,
sure.
or they're setting you an appointment.
Yeah,
And if you
they
don't
set
call,
you
they
an
will call you.
appointment and they are notified by their vet if it does
Well,
not happen.
when we did the dogs there, we went on the day and there was 300 people in line, so I got in line at 6 AM, didn't open till 9. We were still the 25th person in there. When we went through shots, chipped, spay and neutered, I mean, any and everything that needed to be done to any dog that you needed done, it happened on property at that time. I know that we're not capable of doing that, but, and we did pay to register. We do
Yeah.
continuously to do that, but that was one of those things that we didn't have to worry. Our dog, had Daisy been taken to the pound, we would have got a phone call.
Yeah,
Luckily, our friend was there to take her up. But yes, it's still all the fines, still doggy daycare or doggy school that day, you know, I mean,
yeah.
it was an experience. But in the trailer one end and come out the trailer at the other. It was beautiful.
Well, they have local places like the Friends of the Animals and things like that can do those kinds of things, but not on the cities.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Oh, they made plenty of money.
So is council, does council want to move forward with bringing this back? It will probably happen. We'll look at the January agenda, might happen in the February meeting, but in one of those two meetings, do you want me to bring it back with those amendments?
Yes.
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 For council to
Yes.
consider. Okay?
Further discussion?
All right, that's done.
Under new business, we will now move to 4D. We will discuss subdivision site plan permit next steps.
So this is one that came to you last time, kind of in a rush. It's not my favorite way to do it, but it was how we had to do it to get it done. That development, one of the development we were most concerned about is building in process and doing everything, but going forward, as new subdivisions come to us, there were some concerns. I attached kind of a red line copy to making a few changes. I want to be clear that what our intent was not to ensure neighboring areas didn't flood. Our intent in putting this ordinance forward was to make sure someone is inspecting the groundwork that is being done as it is being done, to ensure that if the site plan calls for a 16-inch pipe, a 16-inch pipe is going in and it's going where it is designed to go by the engineer's plan. That the street is being built to the spec, even if it's a private street, that the sidewalks are being installed and they have the correct slope. The fire lanes are being put where the fire lanes go. Retaining
them
walls
accountable.
are being built and inspected and engineered. Anything over 4 foot has to have an engineer stamp. Is that happening on site while the development's going on? But I know some of the concerns were, what was the intent? I changed just a little bit. The subdivision site plan permit shall allow, this is just based on our conversation, we can make additional changes. Approval to verify the site infrastructure is being developed in accordance with the approved engineering plans. And then D, a subdivision site plan permit must be obtained prior to the construction of any public improvements, including but not limited to roads, retaining walls, perimeter fencing, drainage, and sidewalks. We don't do anything with public utility mains. I took that out. I did talk to the attorney about that. But those are really the only two changes, but I'm happy to discuss that and see how we take it forward. We know we have another development ready to go to P&Z. I want to make sure we have something in place. Most developments don't hire an engineer to oversee that construction. They go in and just start moving dirt and doing it. We've improved our process in-house. What concerns does council have? What other changes or not these changes? How do we get this forward so that we're able to better inspect developments as they're being built?
Well, I think we have to have this so it's not affecting either existing current residents,
Right.
in an adverse way either, any of these developments. So, it's just, sometimes some things come up, and it's one of these things that came up. I think we're just, you have to react to it and do the right thing, but I think there has to be accountability.
All right, April, you're up.
How you know it's me? Well, I'm up. Wasn't me.
I was at that meeting.
I think that, I was too. I do think we need something. Do I think this is it? No. And here's what I'm telling you why. Because again, we're sticking our neck out for something that we shouldn't have to be sticking our neck out for. Now she changed the words to verify the infrastructure. Okay, that's fine. But I'm telling you, whenever, I know it wasn't say drainage, but there's the word drainage right there. So when you verify the infrastructure, you verify that drainage, I want to know, how are you verifying that drainage? How are you doing that? Because we don't have staff that can verify the drainage. You can't go out there and do the slopes and make sure that this is that and that is this. What happens when that pipe and they bore it under the ground? I guess you're going to buy a 3D thing or whatever, however you see it. I don't do construction. I have no idea. But I think we're sticking our neck out for something we shouldn't. Should we make sure they build it to specs? Absolutely. Should we make sure that we get an engineered statement whenever they do that? Absolutely. Put that responsibility on them, not on us. Because I'm going to tell you right now, this right here does this, and you're going to verify that infrastructure. Your name's going to be right next to the suit, next to the guy I'm suing too. That we should change our practices, and we should get copies of those engineered things. So when that neighborhood, if it is whatever it may be, the retaining wall, I don't know, whatever the problem is, here's the engineer that signed off on it that says it was whatever the grade is supposed to be. It is whatever it's supposed to be. We have I already have a permit for fencing. I haven't went back and read it. I wasn't really aware this was on the agenda till kind of last minute. I knew those things were, but I know, I think Angie and I talked about it before about fencing, that there is one, I think, for maybe housing.
Yeah, it's
But-
specific to individual.
And so I get that, and fencing is fine, and retaining walls, roads, for example. Okay, well, these are private roads. You know what I'm saying? So we're not supposed to be doing
Well-
any of those.
So let's scale this
The one
conversation.
development that's going in right now is.
Correct.
Not everyone's gonna be.
Correct, and
So-
we do, when we have that, I don't know what the process is, but I know that we've had, Ernie would go out there and he watches the process of them building those roads. So we
Sure.
already do that somehow, somewhere. So again, I think that we need to figure that out, but I think us assuring that things are done, not necessarily in this manner, it needs to be just by getting the engineers, and put the responsibility back on them and not on me. It's their responsibility to make sure it's built to slope. It's their responsibility to make sure, and I need to make sure that they're doing it, yes, but not,
I feel like
but
that's
not.
all that this is
No, it's
making
not.
sure that we're doing that.
That's not what that says. If you're telling me you're gonna verify that, you better just make sure you do, because you're gonna be in the suit right there with them, I'm just telling you.
I feel like all this is doing is holding them accountable to the site plan.
But how are you gonna do it? How are you gonna prove that? They bored that pipe
we
into the
talked
ground, how
about-
are you gonna do that that's a 16-inch pipe in
I mean,
there?
I personally am not, but we talked
But we
about.
How are we gonna do that?
Yeah, we do
How
that
are we-
every day for houses.
I
Okay.
think what I'm
Well,
saying-
that's not what I talk to
So let's-
people about.
Let's scale this conversation down just a little bit. So we have a building inspector here, and when just a single house gets built, you know, they have the permits for that house. We know what the plan is, and Shannon goes out and he verifies that what our permit says, what that building permit says, is what is happening on that project. This is the same thing, just
not
on
the
a
same thing.
bigger scale.
It's totally different. This is not a structure that's building upright. This is things this is infrastructure. I've spoken to him. Have you? Did you call him, ask him? I asked him all these things about how do you do this? How do you do this? How can you do this? I can't do that. I can't do that. Can't do that.
What is your recommendation? What would you rather see so that we can make sure that the developer
Well,
comes in and does exactly
Would we have
what?
to hire a third party?
That's what she talked about
That's
last
what we
time.
talked about last time.
I'm starting to see where it's coming from. Instead of us having to hire a third party, they need to verify that it was done. Their engineer,
That's
their
right.
outside company, they have to go and do
That's right.
that. Everything
They
that
need
we're
to
talking
provide
about
it to the
here,
city.
And then bring to us.
bring it to us.
Yes, and
Or
provide it to
Shannon,
the city.
whoever. I mean,
It should be
yes.
in
So
the
then how
file.
do we rewrite this to make
Okay.
that happen?
So I can do that. So that's what I need from council is how do we get this? We need a permit, right? So you're gonna come in and you're going to get a permit.
Absolutely.
And we can ask them to provide an engineer's statement of whatever, I'll find the right words, right? That infrastructure is in place in line with the standards that are there,
I'm
right?
okay with that.
Yeah.
I'm okay with
Okay.
that.
We're
I
putting the
just-
responsibility
I-
back
Yeah.
on them to provide it to us, but we shouldn't be signing, I call it signing off on, because that's not on us, that's not on me. If you say that you are, then it's on you.
So that's a
So-
verification by the developer's engineer that
But,
it
you know,
has been done.
getting the proper
done to-
paperwork,
done
changing
to
your
specs
procedure to do it.
Of
So
the site plan.
all of this right here is my wheelhouse.
Okay,
I've done every bit of it. You ever drive through the Metroplex and you see the talk about fence, the brick columns, and they're all leaning out, or they're leaning over to the side, or they're doing this? We've actually had 2 cities under our company to actually change the way that concrete is poured into the ground. Most of the time, they put a 4-inch or 6-inch slider, and then they stack a whole bunch of bricks to it, attach a fence that's attached to a pole in the ground that has this much concrete around it. When the wind blows, it all blows over. We actually changed that. Ours, whenever we went to do a development, we actually buried it 4 foot in the ground. Did it cost more? Yes, it cost the developer more money for us to do that. That one development that we did, all the pillars are still standing straight up. Because we know, we call it black gumbo. Grand Prairie,
Yeah.
this way is black gumbo. When it gets wet, it expands, and when it gets hot, you get cracks in the ground. That's what makes that stuff move. So we don't want our name on the end of that.
that's right.
So, and that's the other thing, when we were talking about private roads. That's not our responsibility. And I'll tell you that for me, it's not our responsibility. But when you have 50 people living in that neighborhood, and
Well, or
something
your
goes
fire
wrong
trucks
with the
have to
drainage.
drive down it, or your police cars have to drive
Well,
down
I'm
it.
not, and I'm not.
Doesn't matter who owns it.
I don't-
But what I'm saying is that, I didn't mean to interrupt you. What I'm saying is that, somebody has to take responsibility for that, because guess what? That road may be private, but that phone line in there is gonna be the first one to ring. and then the fire truck goes in and falls in a hole, or the
It's
water
not
main,
wide
the
enough,
water
yeah.
main breaks.
Well, I
The
was the one that
city's
said,
gonna-
I was the one that recommended that even though they were private roads, that we watch them build those roads.
Sure.
Because if any time they ever wanted to come back and turn them into city roads, then they could, or
Which is a
we would be,
possibility.
no,
Absolutely.
granted, they're doing it in concrete, I hear we won't do that. But I recommended that we still did that, but there is already something in place for that.
There isn't.
I think, well, whatever we're doing now, that's worked for, I mean, that we've
They've
done for
only
the last
done it-
80 years, I
They've only
guess.
done it once, they did it for the cottage, and there was no permit, there was no process. Ernie just wanted to make sure the road, there was nothing in place for him to do that.
Mm-hmm.
He just went and did it, and the sidewalks, with no permit, no process in place to do it.
To me, we really should be charging, we really should be doing like impact fees. That's really where, if you want to do fees, because again, $100 a lot, you start sending city employees out there multiple times, it ain't enough money.
I mean,
Yeah, it
that
ain't enough
$100,
money.
I mean,
And I'm not trying to make things harder for people to do business in Gumbel City either. We're already there. I think we should verify, because I have neighbors to said development, right? I get it, and we need to make sure to some extent, but again, at some point, I mean, the responsibility can't lie on us. We can get the proof that's needed from the engineers, but.
Well, if we do this, which I think we need to do, it doesn't guarantee that nothing's,
Absolutely not. If Shannon
that
goes out and
nothing's gonna
inspects-
happen. I mean, we have to understand that.
Yeah.
Even if that engineer comes back and he tells us,
100%.
hey, I'm representing the developer, get my permit, here's my written deal, that it holds us harmless, but it does not guarantee, just as long as we all understand that, it does not guarantee that thing's actually gonna
And
work the
there
way
is
it
no
should.
different than today. If
Sure.
Shannon goes out and inspects
Right.
the electrical at a house,
Yeah.
it doesn't mean the house isn't going to burn down tomorrow and Shannon's going to have any responsibility.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
He inspected it before the walls went up, that it was built to code, end of
Yep.
discussion. We can move forward with, and
So we'll change
I
that.
will have the attorney rewrite it, that they are required to provide a certified engineer statement that the development is built to
to the site plan.
the site, the approved, engineered approved site plan.
Plan and specs.
And we will include all of the infrastructure, because we don't have a fence permit for the perimeter of a
Sure.
neighborhood. We don't have
Yeah.
a retaining wall. We don't have those things. What does that fee look like for that developer to do that? Because we still have to process a permit regardless.
Sure.
What does that look like for?
Well, don't they do it by, right, because again, to me, it's like how many feet, isn't that how they do the fence now? Like how many feet you build?
No, fence
No.
permit $60.
Yeah, I don't know.
So I mean,
Because to
we can do
me,
that.
I mean, if I just did a 50-foot section, that's one thing. A 50-foot straight fence, that's one thing. But if I'm doing the whole perimeter, how many times are we going out there? How many times do we
Well,
just go when it's
if
finished?
we're not, if
or-
we're not going at all, we're requiring an engineered statement, what is the permit fee for?
I don't think an engineer does a privacy fence, do they?
Sometimes, yeah, it depends on the city.
Sometimes.
Well, this
Sometimes.
isn't gonna be a backyard fence, right?
No,
This
this
is
is a
a perimeter fence around.
I didn't know
the
what they were doing. I know one part's a retaining wall, but I think the rest of it's just a pipe fence, right? Or a metal fence or something?
I don't know. I don't know right off the top of my head, but this would be requiring this developer to bring in an engineer to ensure all of the infrastructure is built to the site.
Yep.
So, my
What is
staff
that
wouldn't
fee?
go and do a fence permit unless it was a house, because I have a fence permit for an.
So what we're
I
asking
don't
now
know.
is,
I
what
don't
would
know.
that fee be?
Yeah, well, but here you're not doing anything.
We're
If
not
she's
yet.
saying, which
There
I don't know
still
about,
is a
I don't know about
processing fee.
engineer for fence. I do think some retaining wall, I'll just have to ask questions, because again, I don't know
Yeah.
who does those plans. I don't know if an engineer draws it up, and if we're asking now to require one, I just want to make sure that's not an unrealistic ask.
When we worked in Dallas, when we worked in Fort Worth, Arlington, all the big cities, anything over 4 foot, we had to have an engineer come out, not only
Retaining
test
walls,
on the
yes.
retaining wall,
Yeah.
yes.
But
The
Shannon can redo retaining walls.
behind with the piping, the everything. If we had to fill in behind it, we had to have an engineer come out and stamp it. And there were days when it was raining that we waited 3 weeks for the stamp. I mean, it was just one of those things, but we could not move on without it. And usually whenever we put a retaining wall up, the fence was going on top of it, or right behind it. So there, and yes, I had to wait for that too. Poster set to this amount of concrete, And concrete around Texas isn't a big thing because we don't have frost lines, we don't have heaves. So up north, it happens all the time. But here, usually, we just run with it. But we had to wait. I mean, it was something that we had to do to be able to do it. I was a subcontractor. That
Yeah.
contractor said, you're not building anything, and you're not gonna have it not approved by my engineer. So that is.
So how do we come to this fee?
I'll tell you, in my previous city, we had construction, they were called engineering assistants. They had 0 certifications, but they could go out and say, does this sidewalk meet the slope it's supposed to meet, yes or no? Doesn't take a license to do that, right? Same with streets. Ernie had no special licenses that allowed him to see if the street met the slope, the concrete was what it was, or it wasn't that depth, the sidewalk was or wasn't the slope it should be. I'll be honest with you, I want us to do this right, not depend on what my team wants to or doesn't want to do. I want us to make sure we're doing it the right way. I'm happy to have engineer can measure that if they have an engineer, or have us, but we've got to figure out what that looks like and what that fee looks like, because we do have another development that won't have private streets right on the hills of the one we just approved. So,
Well, and the reality is as far as the fee goes, I mean, that developer, if it's per lot, they're gonna pass that on to that, like,
Per buyer.
yeah. Like,
and that is the equivalent of an impact fee. If we should have impact fees, that per lot charge is the equivalent of that. But, so I'll charge $60 and tell them they have to turn in engineered fees, that we have a cost associated with processing a permit if I never leave, right? We have software, that's why something like a a fence
Where do you
permit is
stand on the fee?
$60. It takes my
That's not a
team 5
problem.
minutes to go out and look and see if a
No
fence is
process.
6 foot.
I don't know yet.
So,
Yeah.
you'll have one in front of you
I'll have to
at the
knock on
next
wood.
one that's a preliminary plat for the next development, and they're just gonna keep spiraling. As I told y'all, we're
Table.
doing the,
We're not passing anything
No.
on that anyway. We're just having a conversation.
Okay.
no, we're not approving it, but
Well, I
I
would
do
say-
need something to bring to you.
Yeah.
Again, we're gonna be another development developing, you have a preliminary plat coming to you at the very next meeting, so.
Okay.
Helping me understand what you want as a council will help me work with my team to set forth what we're gonna do.
Well, it's very hard when I don't do this, and I think your staff is not telling me what they don't want to do. I think, I'm just trying to figure out what do they do, how do they do it, what tools do you need, do we have the tools we need to do it? I just don't want it to be harder to do business with Gumboro. I mean, they already are paying engineers to do it. That's on them. Why don't we just get copies of what they do? But I don't know, because I don't do this, and we haven't had one, so I don't know what the process is for what we've done for fences or other roads or that kind of stuff. And as far as the fee, I mean, I have no idea yet. I'll have to do some more research on it.
I don't know what they do. I mean, I've been out of construction for 10 years now, 12 years now, so I don't know what they do in other cities, but there's also different ways that they do it. So it would be something that I would have to research also, just to.
But I just want to make sure that, because now we're saying everything has to be engineered. I don't saying that that's not okay. I don't know. I don't know what all gets engineered on a property. I don't know what all. I mean, I know they do the drainage. I know we get they slab.
All
So the
Infrastructure.
process.
All infrastructure.
Let's talk about that a little bit. So a typical development will hire an engineer to do their plans, right? They submit it to our engineer says yes or no, it does or does not meet our ordinances. And then, City of Garland, for example, they have this. They have engineering, City of Rowlett, City of Rockwall, have engineering assistants that have construction backgrounds, that's all they have, and they go out and ensure the roads are built the way they're supposed to. At the time they check that box, it met the.
He's just going to the restroom.
We have to
Go in the
wait for
restroom.
him. You have article?
You can't
No.
discuss city business without a quorum.
I didn't know he left.
We'll wait.
Thank you.
It's fine. I didn't know he
Yeah.
left.
No
It's
comments
those-
from the public, how about that?
Yeah,
So,
that's where it should have been, to be honest. It's not about that. You're never supposed to speak from the public.
Do I have to be-
No, but you're not allowed to speak during that unless you're called upon. That's out of order. That's a point of order.
But when there's no quorum, there's no meeting.
stop interrupting.
So we're no longer
With
in
both.
session.
Everybody had a good Christmas?
Ours was awesome.
It was a little warm for me.
Extremely productive.
I mean, it's almost 80 today. Okay, use that.
Sorry, I've held it for 2 hours, so.
That's-
So typically what happens is you have roadway impact fees, you have utility impact fees, you have all those things, right? And so they will get their site plan or their development plan, whatever it is, approved. And those impact fees offset construction inspectors going out and inspecting those things. None of those folks hold any special certification. They are verifying that drainage is going where it is supposed to go and the right size pipe is being used, roads are the right width, they have the right slope, sidewalks are the right slope to be ADA compliant with the site plan. That's typically what happens, and there's some kind of impact fee to do that, and that varies by every single city. This ordinance was based specifically off of how the city of Garland does site plans, because they have that process in place. The building inspector team goes out, all they're doing is verifying, just like if Shannon inspects a house today, he verifies that the electrical is roughed in the way it's supposed to before it's covered up with walls, that they go out and make sure that those things have the right size pipe, they have the right width roads, they have the right slope, in order to ensure that it is built, or verify, if that's a better word, that it is built with the site plan. So, there is the option. My building inspector would love for us just to say, we want an engineer report that says you did it the right way. And that's fine. We still have a processing, and that is the entire development. As y'all heard me say, we don't even have a way to inspect retaining walls that are over 4 foot. We sold them a flat work permit to have our building inspector go out and do that. But we can turnkey and say, you have to have an independent third party go out and do it. It does, that's fine. But then it's all of the infrastructure associated with that site plan is then they are going to have to show that it is built to the specs of that site plan that has been approved by our engineer in line with our ordinances.
But who, like right now, I mean, like, I'm just talking about in general construction, because again, I don't know, so they do a site plan, which is just, it is whatever that is. And I get it, they draw the road, they draw the whatever, but the actual, to verifying that the slope is what it's supposed to be, the water is draining where it's supposed to be, who does that? I mean, not the city, but like, who does, does no one do that?
Not necessarily.
So an engineer makes a plan and then gives it to the contractor to carry out said plan, but nobody makes sure that it's done right.
Well, in a commercial development, we do that as part of their commercial permit. That's something we're doing with HTO to ensure that that building and the stuff around that building is built to the site plan.
I know, but so we watch the water, or we, however you do drainage.
We're not watching the water.
But we're making sure that the drainage is draining where it's supposed to be.
No, absolutely not.
That's what I'm saying.
We're making
I'm just talking
sure
about just one
the-
piece. Who does that? An engineer draws the plans, he gives it to a contractor, the contractor does whatever he's supposed to do. Who ensures that the water drains where it's supposed to be? On any project.
Nobody. We are verifying that the infrastructure that is called out in the site plan is in place on site. That's it. Nobody
So-
goes and makes sure.
So how are you planning to verify the drainage?
We're going to verify that the right size pipe is laid in the right place. That's what you're
And
doing.
it's going in the right direction, the direction that the site plan calls.
We're not
for it to
measuring
go.
water, we're not
Right.
verifying any of that. We're
Right.
verifying that if it calls for a 16-inch pipe to go from me to Janet right here, that 16-inch pipe is there in the ground before they cover it up.
So now you're saying, since I won't agree to this, that he's gonna have to hire someone to come back out and do all that to verify that, is that right?
Are we talking about Hillsdale? Hillsdale's.
I'm not talking about
they're-
Hillsdale, I'm
they're
talking about,
right.
I'm just talking about a contractor.
Yeah.
We've never been talking about Hillsdale.
Yeah, if
We
a
use them as example,
developer.
but if you're telling me
Yeah.
that now whoever does whatever, in order to do it, you want them now to pay another engineer to come out and do all that, right?
Somebody has to inspect it to make
Yes,
sure it's
that's not
built
gonna
to the
work for
site
me.
plan. That's all. I'm
That's why we
asking.
never had this conversation at the beginning, before we ever started this, and it gets thrown in our lap to figure out what we're really talking about here. But I'm not gonna be for having them have to pay another person. I just assumed, again, I don't do construction, so you're not working, it's just, I don't know.
And again, if this is something council doesn't want to do, we take it
We
off
need
the
to hold
plate.
them accountable, and I'm completely fine with that. I'm just trying to figure out how's the best way to handle that. I mean, this city's existed for however many years, and I guess we've never, ever done this. And so, now we all of a sudden need to do this. I'm just trying to make it as seamless as possible and try to verify however we can verify without sticking our neck, out there to be cut off. Because it's not our neck that should be out there to begin with. It should be theirs 100%. But all of a sudden, we want to go out there and we want to do this, I'm saying, how's the best way to do it, and make sure that we have the tools and the information, the way to do it, and then try not to be so difficult to do business with.
I'm not sure there's a way to go out after said construction is done without a third party, or without an.
Yeah, but that's what she
expense.
wanted to do to begin with, is to do it ourselves, so,
Right, but we're still wanting, as a city, to verify that they did it correctly.
But that's the only way you're gonna do it, is the way her proposition, whatever proposing was to us to go out there and check the perimeter fencing, drainage, walls, retaining
Well,
walls.
but the
roads.
way we get around it so we're not liable is they have to give us a signed
But now we
affidavit or
have, yeah,
whatever.
but
it be.
now they're having to go back out and pay another engineer to do that, is that what you're saying, correct?
No,
Well,
no,
somebody's
that's
gotta
said
do
it,
Yeah, they do, she
And-
said.
and- So it's no different than a foundation for a house, right? We require an engineer to confirm that that foundation was built. We had this conversation with Shannon at the last meeting. We require an engineer to sign off saying that foundation was poured the way it was supposed to be poured, right? So that's what this is, and you would just have, I don't care how they get it, maybe they have an engineer, maybe their engineer is gonna come do it, but they would be, the alternative is,
So either
They
we do
are-
it in-house or someone else.
they
so
are
I don't know.
required to provide us an engineer statement that the development infrastructure.
they
was
wouldn't
put in
necessarily have to
place by
pay
the
for
site
another
plan.
engineer. Their engineer who did that would
Should
just
sign
have
a
to,
statement.
have to sign off on it.
Not, I mean, I don't know, again, I'm doing research, because if I'm the engineer, and I just turn those plans over to a construction guy, how do I know that they built it the way I told them to? Unless I'm there doing that, and I'm probably sure they ain't, so why would I put my stamp on that? So again, I didn't realize that that's, again, why I don't know anything about construction, but I'm going to do a little bit more research on that.
So in my history, there, especially on a larger development, there's usually an engineer on staff. And usually does come out, hard hat, khaki pants, white shirt, and they do make sure. They will look down in that ditch and go 16-inch pipe. They will walk by and go pillar of good on that fence. They will do that, that's what they do.
Well, that's what I was
Then they-
asking her
then they-
before, how do they know it's built the way it's supposed to be if they're not there to do it? But I don't know.
Then they sign off, and it usually sticks right there with the permit that's hanging on the wall. so they will sign off on that.
Yeah, and I
Now,
don't know,
that's
I
not
mean, it's
saying
gonna
that
depend
it's
on
still
every
done that way,
developer.
not all companies do it that way. All I'm saying is that usually a large development, whether, I mean, and I say large, apartment complex, housing addition, whatever it is, they wanna make sure that they're getting the right stuff.
The only way I see that we could ever ensure that is we would have to be available to go out on a daily basis and meet with that said engineer on site to make sure everything's being done correctly.
Well,
And what is our cost of that?
that's what I was fixing to say.
And
That's
that
why I
would
said you
be-
go out there twice, you know, I'm saying, that's, I mean.
And there's so much more, like, and I'll use Hillsdale, because I drive by it all the time, and I'll look at it and I see what's going on. That is, they do this section, they don't do it all at one time, because they gotta take that loose dirt and put back over on that pipe.
Yeah.
So what they're gonna do is dig a trench. Now, whether the slope is correct or not, or if we get a 4-inch rain, fills back in, are they gonna go back in and dig it out? Or is that dirt gonna settle and it's gonna raise somewhere? There's no way to tell that, okay? So what they do is they dig and they do a certain section. They call out, somebody goes out there, Shannon goes out there and says, okay, 16-inch pipe in the ground. But if you're doing it 2, 3, 4 times a day, and you're having to go out there all the time, it's tough to be able to do that without having another inspector or
Sure.
2, depends on how many things
And
you're
then
going
$100 a lot's not enough. And it's gonna cost you, you're gonna lose more, it's gonna cost you more money than it is that you're charging.
Well, it seems, watch how I say this. It seems like we have that problem in every city, because how many times does Shannon go out to one house?
More than you know.
Exactly.
But how much is the fee for that house, to build a house? $100? No.
I don't know where else.
I don't
It's not
know, but
expensive.
usually it's not expensive.
It's not expensive.
But when.
A residential permit might be $100.
Yeah, so does that take effect? How many times does he go out there and how long is he there? Those are questions that we have to ask.
Yeah.
Because you figure his salary, plus his gas,
Sure.
insurance, all that, you take everything in consideration.
Yeah.
The first time he goes out to inspect the first dig with all the plumbing underneath, before the concrete's poured, probably wastes that $100. But at what point do we say, enough is enough? Are we gonna charge $5,000 for a house permit? Because that's what it's gonna cost for him to go out there. And I'm not saying that, I just threw numbers out there. Does that make
And
sense?
Yeah, we're not
with
talking
a
about
house,
We're not
we
talking
have a
about
really good
No, no, I'm
idea.
talking,
Yeah, we're not
but
talking about
I'm just
This-
using that as an example.
this is something
But that
new.
one, he's gonna be
Yeah.
out there for 2 years.
Yeah, this is something new, and what I know is Ernie went to the cottages every day for hours to make sure the sidewalks were installed correct, that
Yep.
the roads were installed, and we did that with no reimbursement, right? So we tied up a staff to do that with no reimbursement, and we know we have developments coming. How do we combat that? That was the whole purpose of this, was how do we ensure, how do we verify, ensure with an E, how do we ensure with an E that things are built to the specs that we've told them they have to build them to? And so, and again, it's when it goes in the ground. Tomorrow it may be moved. But when it goes in the ground, is it the right size? Is it the right slope? Is it the sidewalk, the right thickness? So,
Well, I don't
That's
think
what
there's
this
any
was
way
about.
we would have an ability without somebody being there quite a few times a day to know that for sure. And then we have to, if that's what we want to have happen, then we have to be prepared as a council to decide what that cost is.
well, what they're gonna do on roads is they're gonna go out when the rebar gets put in the ground. When they lay the rebar, they're gonna go pre-pour and they're gonna go post-pour to be sure. Now, that development is gonna be required to do some tension, post-tension, just like we had to
Well,
do at the
the-
community center to ensure the roads,
The
but,
hardness of the concrete.
yeah,
They
that's
have to
part
do
of
that,
it.
they send
They
that
take
off
core
to
samples.
testing,
Yeah.
core samples. They
Now,
have to
now
go
the
to
developer typically does that. What
Yeah.
we're doing is making sure that if they say the road is 31 foot wide, that it is indeed 31 foot wide, and
Sure.
they didn't build it 26 to cut corners.
Sure.
That's really what that is
Right.
about, is, you know, are the fire lanes where the fire lanes are supposed to be? Are the water drain, is it the right width, and is it in the right location? Are, you know, that type of thing. Fire hydrants or something that are on there. Did they put the fire hydrants where the fire hydrants were
And I
supposed to
know
be?
landscape is a completely different thing, but one of
Yeah.
the things that I did every day was, once I checked with my guys at 3:45, they were out the door at 4 o'clock, or in the truck at 4 o'clock. At 4:15, I was walking with the developer, or I was walking with the construction manager and saying, plan in hand, this one got 12 of these shrubs, this one got 12 of these shrubs, there's a one large tree there, there's one small tree there. Those are the things that I did. But I did it with the construction manager, not with an engineer. Engineer came back at the final and said, done, or if a shrub died or a tree died,
Yeah.
we'd have to pull it out and reinstall it. So there's, the engineer, usually on these large projects,
Yeah.
there usually are engineers that go out and hold the subs and the general contractor to a certain standard. I say usually because not everybody's the same.
Right, but they're already doing that, and then we're just wanting them to do it, again. But we should have some, we don't have anything for landscaping, do we have because that's not in here either, but like, if they take out like they did, so many trees, they need to put back, however many, whatever.
The first subdivision that we had built was the cottage. That was the first subdivision, and as far as Brittany could tell, 25 to 30 years. And we did all this, but we just didn't have a way to get a permit to do it. We did it because it was the right thing to do. So that's when this came up, and we said, hey, we gotta figure this out. I talked to our building official. He said, hey, get an engineered stamped report saying that that development is constructed to that. Done. We can do that 100%. Just like we
I
do for
don't have a problem
foundations.
if that's what, if they already have an engineer to do it. My thing is if they don't, I mean, I don't know, I'm not a builder, I just don't want them to have to go ahead and pay, and then if they have to pay someone else to do it again, you know what I'm saying?
No,
But I need to ask, because I don't know.
Well, they have their engineer.
Original engineer,
Yeah,
but she's
yeah.
saying, but we're saying that's not, I don't know, that's what I just asked.
No, I don't, and I don't know
I
enough
don't know.
about what they do to say, will the construction company have an, I don't know.
Design
that.
engineer, so you got a design engineer, will he sign
Right.
off in the end if he's not the,
I do
he's not,
not
he didn't
know
hire nobody, he didn't do the
Either,
construction? Maybe he will, maybe he
but somebody's
won't.
gonna have to
Yeah.
inspect
You
it.
should
We
have-
have to inspect it and take
should
that
have.
money, or we have to cause them to hire somebody to do it, and that costs them money.
Usually,
And
I
if
say
they
this
do,
because
that's
of
fine,
that.
I have no problem with that.
Usually when they have a engineering firm or in-house engineering firm, they usually have an infrastructure engineer that will actually, let me rephrase.
That's the challenge.
Should go out there
Yeah.
and take a look at it, because they are putting their name on it.
Right.
And it's usually the person that did the drawing, or usually within the people that do the drawings also.
Which is
So-
why I said it in the beginning, why not let them do it, because if they're already there and they already paid them, why not have them do it, but then I wasn't sure if they, because she said not everybody does
Not
that, so
everybody
then I'm
does
like,
No,
you know.
yeah,
That's why I say
100%,
should.
not everybody
That's why I
will.
say should.
So we have to do one or the other, right? We either have to require them to do it, or we have to do it, and we need a process for that. Because I can promise, we got another one coming, and there will be another one right after that, because there's a lot of open area to develop houses, and there's money in that for developers to sell lots, and so, and some of them do it with their own personal tractor, and that becomes a problem that we spend a lot of, I guess, my basis of this is you spend a lot of time and effort making sure it meets our ordinances, and then we turn them loose and let them go. Right? And nobody's going out and verifying that what you approved is what gets built. So whoever does that, I don't care, one way or the other.
Just like-
Like I said, I base this on Garland, they do it, so,
Any company is gonna have their shortfalls, or cities, whatever it is. When you talked about landscape, when we talk about landscape, that's one thing that I base my business on, is making sure that everything was correct. That's why I was on site every day. Sometimes all I did was 12 hours of windshield time, just to make sure that everything's happening in the way it does. When you start hiring anybody that'll dig a hole, I've gone up on job sites where they go, Brian, you see more fence, you see more landscape than anybody else, yet this fence looks straight to you, and I don't knock anybody's business, but just looking at it with a blind's eye, yeah, it's not straight. But who signed off on it? And I think that's where we're actually looking at, and I use fence because you can see it. The pipe in the ground drainage, we will know quick, fast, and in a hurry if it doesn't drain.
Yeah,
Too
but
late,
of course,
too
drainage,
late. but
Yeah, but
it'll be quick faster.
You just said drainage, so
Yeah.
of course I think of flood, that's what we all been having so much trouble with, in our area.
Sure.
is the dang drainage.
Well, and I know that was, before.
And that was
I
the
joined
issue with the people on the leeway, talking about drainage.
Before, exactly, yes, and it feels like every time that I came to a city council meeting, before, that somebody got up there and said, it's drainage.
So I think drainage, that's what I think, but
And
I get it could be
think you
pipes.
also have to think, drainage is designed around computer models, right?
Mhm.
They may be off a little bit here or there. All we're verifying is that infrastructure, the hard pipe, the curb cutouts are put where they are designed to be put in the site plan. Whoever is verifying that, it doesn't matter to me how we do it, we just need that check and balance. I will tell you, Garland's is no matter what, it's commercial and residential. You can buy you get a commercial site plan permit, and that is the first step, and then you get a commercial building. My understanding was we were verifying that because most of ours go vertical, so with that commercial building, they were verifying those things. Retention ponds are where they're supposed to be, fences are where they're supposed to be. All of those things are being checked with the commercial, so I took commercial out of this and made it a subdivision permit as opposed to a site plan permit necessarily for both, because we are going vertical and most commercial go vertical immediately. They're not building open space that doesn't go vertical with parking lots, so.
Going back to drainage, you brought up retention ponds. Those things, they have to be a certain depth, they have to be a certain size. But as the ground fills in, silt
will
fence, it changes and people go, but you know,
You're just
our Earth
verifying it
moves.
before they cover it up.
Our Earth does things that not every planet does.
Yeah.
So, but it does move a lot and shifts. And drainage around here is huge. I watch my front yard run right down my driveway every time I turn around. Every time it rains.
So are we wanting to get back to kind of where, to wrap this up? Are we wanting to just have a engineer sign off on this? Or are we wanting to have some type of check and balance, which would encompass, obviously, our employees to go and be a part of that? At which we would have to assess some type of a fee. So it's either or. I mean, it's
Oh,
not,
you need a fee either way, it still takes staff time, I mean, I'm
To
saying,
process.
or even if to get the.
yeah, but it's
get
either
this
or, but what are
whatever
we wanting?
The fee to be, or what do we want?
No, what do we
process
want
for?
in the process?
Yeah, I have to do some more research
Okay.
for me.
I'll tell you that's an engineer. You would have to have, especially.
You
the way
would
it's
suggest to have the engineer sign off on
And
it?
here's why. We've got one going now. We have another one coming up, right? We don't have the staff
Yeah,
to do that. And then that cost would be between the two of them. I mean,
I mean, the
$50,000
reality
a
is
piece or
today,
whatever.
I do have the staff to do that, where building permits as a whole are relatively slow. If that changed, it could change that, yeah.
Sure.
So,
Because once those get started getting
Yeah.
built, now we're building homes.
yeah. So potentially, yes.
Yeah, well, potentially.
Yeah, no question. When all the houses, if every house gets built at the same time, then,
so really where we're at is, it's either the engineers, or, yes, we have the staff, we just have to come up with a fee.
Yeah.
It's one of those two things.
and if it is the engineer, then it is a processing fee, right? It's $25 to get this permit because you're required to
Right.
provide this engineer report.
don't
My
think-
staff won't be on site, they won't inspect
Yeah,
retaining
yeah.
walls and fences, and they'll be required to
And then
say,
we will just have to come up with
Yeah.
a fee if we want our staff on site.
and this will change if you want an engineer to do it, because it's going to say, you get a permit and you have to have an engineer sign off that the site development was done in accordance with the site plan.
Take it.
Yeah, it does include landscaping, right?
It's gonna be in accordance with the site plan,
Does the
whatever
site
is on the
plan,
site
does the
plan.
site plan, I don't know if the site plan.
I'll have
has
to
it.
look and see, I don't know right off the top of my head. I believe there is a landscape plan as a part of that is a page that is a part of that. So it would be an engineer signing off, and then they gotta figure out how they're gonna do that,
Correct.
so. We'll take out all the words we're gonna inspect, and
Yeah.
it will just say you have to have a site plan,
Yeah.
And it could be $60, it could be, you know, I mean, most of our permits that don't take a lot of staff time range around that $60 mark, so, because there's still a processing fee for
Sure.
it.
I say engineer.
Which is where I was going with the whole thing. I just want to make sure that, I assume that most of these big projects would have it, like you said, an on-site engineer, so it's easier to put that back on them and not on us, but I don't know.
So with that being said, it depends on where the company that's building, I don't know where Hillsdale is out of. They may have one at the office that comes out once a week. or
Well, they hire, I mean, if we're talking with them, I know them, they hired a third party, so they have design engineer, and then he's got another engineer that's watching the whole entire thing be built. So I know for him, but we're not talking about him, we're talking
Yeah,
about, you know, we don't know if the next guy who's
Yes.
building, the next one is
Where
gonna
are
be,
they
or the
coming
next
from?
one's after that, you know what I'm saying?
I mean, I've worked for people, general contractors that are out of Oklahoma, Louisiana, up north. They come down here because there's no work up there during the winter time, so they come down here. But it just depends on who I'm dealing with.
So my question to council is, do I have direction to bring this back to another council member, to another council meeting, ready to approve, or do we want to have another work session about this?
Brian?
For me, with the engineer, it's for approval.
Jen?
I'm good with that.
April?
I want to do some checking on some stuff, but as far as I know, I'm good with that.
Okay.
Okay.
Any further stuff?
You want your gavel?
Huh? No. No, and I don't have to fix my hair anymore. I'm not on camera. We're adjourned.
I didn't know
We're
y'all
adjourned though,
stopped. I
right?
felt bad because.
We're
I was just
adjourned.
like,
Yes, yes, we're adjourned.